ready?
Yeah.
So from that standpoint, it's a lot better.
Yeah. I'll now draw the regular scheduled meeting for Tuesday, October 25th, first to order. Can I please have the clerk call the roll?
Good evening, Planning Commissioners. Chair Lightfoot.
Here.
Vice Chair Wilkerson.
Here.
Commissioner Vargas.
Here.
Commissioner Banta.
Here.
Commissioner Vermont.
Here.
Commissioner Dingman.
Here.
Chair, we have a quorum.
Thank you. I'll ask everybody please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I'll ask Commissioner Dingman to lead us in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So next, we will be swearing in and appointed planning commissioners. The newly appointed Commissioner Hampton, please stand for your swearing in. I'll ask City Clerk Thornbrew to administer the oath of office.
Please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your name. Do solemnly swear
Swear
to support and defend
to support and defend
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California
and the Constitution of the State of California
against all enemies,
against all enemies,
foreign and domestic.
foreign and domestic.
And I will bear true faith and allegiance
I will bear true faith and allegiance
to the Constitution of the United States
to the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California.
and the Constitution of the State of California.
That I take this obligation freely
I take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation
without any mental reservations
or purpose of evasion.
or purpose of evasion,
And I will well and faithfully
and willingly and faithfully
discharge the duties
discharge the duties
upon which I'm about to enter.
about the duties I'm about to enter.
Welcome, sir. So next, we'll move on to communications. We will move on with the regular business, starting with communications. At this time, I'll ask Director Morris if there are any communications or announcements for this evening's.
Thank you, Chair Lightfoot. There were some communications received after the packet was published. Those have been added to the website and transmitted to each of you ahead of the meeting, and we haven't received anything that you do not currently have in your possession.
Great, thank you. Okay, so next, I'll move on to the approval of this evening's agenda. Do I have a motion and then a second to approve the agenda?
Second.
I have a motion from Vice Chair Wilkerson and a second from Commissioner Beaumont. Can we please have a roll call vote?
Commissioner Vargas.
Yes.
Commissioner Banta.
Yes.
Commissioner Vermont.
Yes.
Commissioner Dingman.
Yes.
Commissioner Hampton.
Yes.
Vice Chair Wilkerson.
Yes.
Chair Lightfoot.
Yes.
Motion passes.
So next, we'll move on to item number 6. This is business from the floor. This portion of the agenda is for anybody who'd like to speak to the commission regarding a topic that's not on tonight's meeting or scheduled to be spoken about tonight. I welcome anybody who wishes to address the commission regarding a topic that's not on the agenda this evening to do so now. It's just 1 second. Let me just turn on your mic just 1 second. There you go.
Yeah, I live out in Browns Valley, and I just want to voice my opinion on Vine Street. You know, I've lived in Vacaville since 1951. Vine Street is kind of rural, and 28 homes there would be too dense on that small piece of property and that narrow road. So that's one thing that was on my mind. The other thing is when design of landscapes, it would be nice to have native plants on a lot of these landscaped areas, okay? Bring back the pollinators. Oak trees support quite a bit of wildlife. It's the one tree that supports different birds and different things. And milkweed, for butterflies and things like that. I know this, when they design these landscapes, we're getting a lot of these plants that bring in a lot of noxious weeds and different things. Okay. And so it'd be nice if we could bring back the pollinators, the bees. If we don't have that, you're going to lose a lot in this country as far as a food supply. Those are a couple of things I just want to mention, this planning. It'd be nice that the Parks Department would do more things like that, look into more native plants. They've done a few oaks and things on some of these strips and easements and bike trails, but not enough. Okay. And some of the development is okay. I'm not against that, but we don't want to end up like San Jose and like these other cities. The reason people like Vacaville is because it has some open space left. Okay. So Old Rocky, projects like that were good. They kept a lot of the open space. That's why people like to live here. Okay. So just want to express my opinion on those things. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there anybody else? Okay, I'll close business from the floor. So next we'll move on to the consent calendar. We have one item on the consent calendar, which is the minutes from the August 19th, 2025 meeting. Does anyone from the commission or public wish to pull the consent item for discussion? If none, do I have a motion to approve the consent calendar?
I'll make the motion. I'll second.
I have a motion from Commissioner Deeman and a second from Commissioner Vargas. If you didn't attend the meeting, you can vote abstain.
Commissioner Vargas?
Yes.
Commissioner Banta?
Yes.
Commissioner Bremont?
Yes.
Commissioner Dingman?
Yes.
Vice Chair Wilkerson?
Yes.
Chair Lightfoot?
Yes,
Motion passes.
thank you. So next, we'll move on to item number 8, it's the public hearing. 8A is the dog stop zoning text amendment and conditional use permit. So we'll first hear the presentation by staff, followed by commissioner questions, and then we'll open it up for public comment. May we please have the staff's presentation?
Chair? Yep. I just want to report ex parte. Yeah.
Okay, if anybody has ex parte communication, please bring it up. I'll start with Commissioner Wilkerson.
Yes, I did have a phone call with the applicant, and I didn't learn anything new, but I did have a phone call with the applicant.
Anybody else? Thank you very much. And during public comment, we'll give everybody 3 minutes to address the commission with their questions or comments. And everybody will get a chance to do that after staff's presentation and commissioner questions.
Good evening, Chair. The item before you tonight is the dog stop, and here to present this item is our Assistant Planner, Brenna Klaschinski.
Hi, welcome.
Thank you. Good evening, Chair and members of the Planning Commission. I am Brenna Klaschinski. I'm an Assistant Planner with the Community Development Department, and I'm here to present the dog stop. The request before you is to amend Title 14 of the City of Vacaville's Municipal Code to allow animal shelter and boarding in the General Commercial Zoning District with a use permit, as well as to approve a conditional use permit to establish a dog stop within an existing approximately 8,000 square foot tenant space located at 848 Alamo Drive. Here you'll see the general commercial zones within a City of Vacaville. And this is the location of the proposed dog stop within the Ranch Shopping Center. Before you is a project background, which you can also find in the staff report. Animal shelter and boarding is defined as a commercial, nonprofit, or governmental facility for keeping, boarding, training, breeding, or maintaining, generally overnight or in excess of 24 hours, dogs, cats, or other household pets not owned by the owner or operator of the facility. This is currently only allowed within the districts shown here. Thus, a zoning text amendment is required to allow animal shelter and boarding within the CG zoning district. In all cases, we would require a minor use permit unless it's next to residential zoning or uses, which would then we would require a conditional use permit. We've also created developmental standards. And then the final thing to approve would be a conditional use permit for the dog stop. You'll see here that it is zoned commercial general within the general plan and our zoning map. The proposed amendments are to amend the land use regulation table to allow animal shelter and boarding within general commercial zones using a minor use permit or a conditional use permit. We'd also like to create a new section for animal shelter and boarding with standards and regulations regarding odor and refuse collection, noise, and outdoor areas. We've based these standards on research of 23 jurisdictions within California. There are a few areas of disagreement between staff and the applicant with the new proposed ordinance, that being requiring trash enclosures as well as requiring an acoustical analysis. However, staff have worked with the applicant to come up with good resolutions. The final part of our presentation is for the conditional use permit for the dog stop at 848 Alamo Drive. This is an approximately 8,000 square foot tenant space that will include 77 pet boarding spaces and an additional 1,350 square foot outdoor area. This space does abut residential uses, with the building being 80 feet away and the proposed outdoor area 140 feet away. Public concerns did come up regarding noise from barking and odors from trash. Once again, this is the location at the proposed dog stop in the Ranch Shopping Center. You'll see here the site plan for the interior, and then the green square indicates where the outdoor area would be. Conditions of approval were drafted regarding noise, trash enclosures, and landscaping. Staff is responsible for doing an environmental analysis in which we found that the project meets the findings for section 15301 and 15303 of CEQA. Thus, it's categorically exempt and does not require further review. Public outreach was done by mailing new project notices, hosting a neighborhood meeting, and mailing public hearing notices. Public comments were received regarding odor and noise, and then the city believes that we have responded in kind with our ordinance, and that covers the odor and noise. In conclusion, we believe that the proposed ordinance addresses the public concerns. It meets the required findings for the zoning text amendment. The project meets required findings for the conditional use permit, and the conditions ensure compliance with the proposed ordinance. By simple motion, staff recommends that the Planning Commission make a recommendation to City Council for the adoption of the ordinance and the conditional use permit. This concludes our presentation tonight. The applicant has also done a presentation if the commission so chooses to allow it, and then staff and the applicant are available for questions.
Thank you very much. Yeah, can we have the applicant come up and do a presentation now? Yeah, please.
Planning Commission members and planning staff. Thank you. My name is Mark Henriksen, representing the Dog Stop, and I appreciate the opportunity to speak with you this evening. And my intention is not to read the slides to you all in respect for your time, and I know everybody here can see what's being presented, but I'm going to hit the highlights. And really the purpose of the presentation tonight from me is to provide information and put the general public at ease and provide additional detail to the commission this evening to better understand the concept and see that it will be a asset to the community and not a nuisance. Of course, it's to seek approval for the text amendment and conditions of approval, with one exception, and I'll get to that shortly. And again, proactively address some of the concerns that may be out there. Here's a little bit additional orientation to the plaza and where the location is. You saw that in the prior slides from the planning department. To take note, the western wall where the red arrow is from the premise is approximately 140 feet from the property line or the Village Oak apartment fence right there. So it's quite a ways away, and that point will be referred to later on in the presentation. The turf area with the red area there in green is approximately 140 feet from that fence line or property line. Here's a sample footprint. You saw some with a footprint with additional detail from the Planning Committee. Special note here is this is primarily an indoor facility. The outdoor relief area is a random access area. It's not an area where we spend a great deal of time training or turning 50 dogs loose to run amok, right? It's meant for the health and well-being of our tenants, our furry family members, as well as the owners when the dogs or our tenants return home. That's the purpose of that turf area, exterior relief area. Some of the community and economic benefits, I think some of them can go without saying, but I think it's important to point out. From this premium pet care facility that's in high demand in the community, this is a national leading dog care facility. It's not a shelter. It's not a pound. It is a premium dog care facility for the benefit of our pets here in the community, as well as the region. Some of our community members are traveling over an hour to use a facility similar to this facility. So it will provide and possibly attract more people from around the region to our community that provides additional tax revenues, just like this facility will produce additional tax revenue. In addition, we plan to hire approximately 12 team members and hopefully more as our volume increases. So we're providing jobs to some of our residents here in the city, as well as revitalizing what is currently a vacant space. This was previously occupied by Pace Solano. And it needs some help. I'll just leave it at that. Across the bottom of the slide, you can see all of the services that we provide. By the way, all of the services, with the exception of boarding, are already approved in a commercial zone. So boarding is what essentially initiated this whole process and the reason we're here today. Some of the concept information. The materials that we use, I'm not going to go through all of these, again, in the interest of time, but many of the materials and fixtures and equipment that we use are recycled, made out of recycled material, including the 8-foot PVC fence. It's not some other facilities out in the region may use, standard board fencing. We use PVC, which is antimicrobial, 8 feet high, which also provides some sound mitigation as well. Kennels, state-of-the-art, industry-leading standards for the kennels that also provide and allow us to clean and maintain very sanitary standards. Same thing with the artificial turf. It's a canine grass specifically made for this concept. Epoxy flooring, again, liquid resistant, so it's not penetrating or maintaining or retaining any odor or any liquids. HVAC and ventilation is already provided and part of the concept standards. And again, for the health and well-being of the pets, as well as air filtration. And wall coverings, again, for the betterment of the concept. Getting into some of the common concerns as well as operational detail, proposed hours of operation are listed there. I think it's also important to mention that we don't just hire people and turn them loose. They go through an extensive training program. So the supervision and monitoring of our tenants and dogs are supervised by trained professionals, not just a part-time high school student who loves pets. These are trained professionals that go through quite a bit of training. And there's a very engaged franchisor that provides oversight and supervision and training in the field as well as prior to the facility opening that helps protect the brand. And of course, we want to expand. The franchisor wants to expand. And so, in fact, I think it's worth mentioning that was in the first slide, this is the #1 rated dog or pet care franchise in the nation by ChatGPT. Addressing some of the concerns, noise management. The design feature is primarily indoors, as I already mentioned. In addition, most people aren't aware, unless you're a pet owner, you probably have noticed, dogs sleep and rest approximately 16 hours a day. The 8 hours a day that they are active, we provide very structured playtime. We provide additional training and oversight that helps make this a healthy experience for the pets and does not, let's say, assist in creating more fear, anxiety, and stress that also creates noise. So that's part of the purpose of having trained individuals supervising the dogs and pets. Hygiene and odor control, industry-leading sanitation protocols with non-toxic veterinary grade products and materials in the facility. And this certainly ensures an environment that's clean and safe and healthy for our pets, as well as mitigating sound and noise and odor. Safety and security. I haven't heard that come up, but I think that's an important point to make, that we have 24/7 monitoring that's available to our pet owners as well as our supervising staff. We do employ a general manager, an assistant general manager, and certainly myself and my wife as owners would have access to 24-hour monitoring. We have staff on site from approximately 6:30 a.m. until about 7:30 p.m. And the pets are outside of their boarding or kennels, just a few hours during the day. I wanted to get into a little more detail in addressing our recommendation to eliminate in the conditions of approval point 6B, and that is the noise study. This has been a very significant investment personally. We are already approved for a small business loan with Live Oak Bank, the nation's #1 small business loan company in the nation. And we have, as I mentioned, a significant amount of our personal funds as called the contributors investment into the project of over $250,000. I'm a 25-year resident here in Vacaville, and this has certainly represented a very large commitment for us. But as far as the noise study here, there on the right side are the generation levels for non-transportation sources of noise in the city, or the noise standards otherwise referred to. And you can notice some of these are measured in decibels. I just wanted to point out one point in the noise standards code 14.09.240.d, and noise standards for non-transportation sources shall not apply in the following situations. Point number C, these include children playing, barking dogs, and musical equipment. These are some of the services already in the center, as well as what we're proposing, of course, barking dogs. So, and I think this probably has been applied possibly in some of the dog parks around the city in adjacent to new neighborhoods, as well as apartment complexes. So just a point to make there, hopefully supporting our quest and desire to eliminate that one point in the conditions of approval. The next slide. So I took the liberty of purchasing a noise level meter. I take the concerns of the community very seriously, and I wanted to get out there and say, well, let's see what they really are. I found, as I calibrated with some of the standards in the community and what was projected along I-80. I believe it was approximately 65 decibels. I said, well, let's see what it really is and what the impact of darking dogs would make on these noise levels. I'm not going to go through them all. You all can see them. I spent quite a bit of time, and it doesn't even represent the number of times that I went back to the same locations during non-peak periods. Some of you may notice some of those periods, 6:05, 6:30, those are peak traffic periods. So the ambient sound from traffic certainly played into the readings that I took. And I even went to a regional dog care facility, and I'd just like to make the point, because the concern is barking dogs. And this was in a busy shopping center in a neighboring community or city. And the noise levels, the ambient noise, were very similar to the I-80 noise that we get here at the plaza, the Ranch Plaza, somewhere around, on an average, to 65 decibels. As I stood directly outside within a foot or two of the walls that are basically stucco and stud construction, which are not nearly as sound mitigating as our masonry cinder block construction at the Ranch Plaza in that suite, 848, 848A. But there, the noise levels when I stood within 1 foot was approximately 81 decibels. It rose about 9 decibels from the ambient noise. When I went 20 feet away, several readings, it rose about 3 decibels to approximately 75, 74. When I went 40 feet away, which by the way is less than the distance that the interior of this proposed facility will be, when I went 40 feet away, I could not hear the dogs barking from the interior, nor did it change the reading on the sound meter. Next slide. So in conclusion, I believe that the Dog Stop business provides a service which is in high demand and a much needed service in the city of Vacaville. And we are offering a standard of care that other pet care facilities, not only in the region here, but across the nation, only strive to emulate. Secondly, I propose that the noise study is unnecessary, costly, and overburdensome for a small business owner such as myself. And it would not effectively determine the suitability of the proposed use in this location. The city can adequately address potential project noise impacts via code enforcement protocols and procedures. And as a responsible business owner and a city advocate, our intent is to be completely transparent, follow all laws, procedures, codes, et cetera. And that was the reason why I've responded personally to every single concern that's been raised by anybody in the community that I've been made aware of, and intend to be that way as a strong operator. Which leads to the third point. The most significant factors that are going to mitigate or maintain high standards regarding noise and odor are the operational standards, practices, and accountability of the business owner and operator. These standards are also monitored and reinforced by the franchisor with decades of experience. That's how this concept was developed, decades of experience. So of course our intent and recommendation is to move forward with the text amendment and the conditions of approval, excluding the noise study requirement. So thank you for the time this evening, and when it's appropriate, I can certainly answer any questions. But at this time, I'd like to turn it over to our civil engineer, who's been extensively involved in the project for several months. Thank you.
Good evening, Planning Commission. This is an odd position for me to be in. I've never come and disagreed with staff. It's not something I like to do. And I do want to thank staff because we've worked very hard together to come to agreement on all but one minor item. And that item, as Mark said and reiterated, was the acoustical analysis. And I want to clarify that's both in section 3B of the zoning text amendment and also 6B in the conditions of approval. Mark hammered it from the business perspective, and I agree with all the points he made, and hopefully you guys see it from his perspective. I'm sure we'll hear from some citizens as well tonight. But one thing I do want to bring up as a design professional and a longtime citizen of Vacaville is I don't like inconsistencies in the municipal code. It's very easy to design and build when the municipal code is consistent. It gets very difficult when that municipal code gets muddy. And I fear that by requiring this one particular use in this one particular zone to do an acoustical analysis, that will muddy up that zoning text amendment or the municipal code. So I just want to reference a few things. I pulled up permitted uses. Now, these are not uses that require a minor or conditional use permit. These are ones that are permitted by right. You come in, you apply for it, you go to work. So some of the things that are permitted in this zone are community assembly buildings. Community assembly buildings could be community centers or meeting halls. Obviously, you're going to have your crab feed, and that might get pretty loud pretty late in the evening occasionally. Other uses are daycare centers, as Mark referenced in his thing. You know, daycare centers often have outdoor play areas, which would be at least similarly loud as a dog outdoor area, but probably will be out there for longer, as Mark referenced. The intent is not to have the dogs out there 24/7. They're limited in hours from 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. And they're not out there all day. They're only out there for their dog relieving necessities. Park and recreation facilities are allowed in the general commercial zoning. That could be gymnasiums, swimming pools, tennis courts. You know, those are quite loud facilities. Additionally, are indoor sports facilities, bowling alleys, card rooms, and my favorite, indoor shooting ranges. That is a permitted use in the city of Vacaville in the general commercial zone. Custom and artisan manufacturing, including things like leatherworking, metalworking, glassworking. Imagine someone out there with the blacksmith shop hammering on an anvil all day long. Permitted use in that zone. And finally, pet daycare. Pet daycare is a permitted use. They're permitted to have an outdoor relief area. That's a permitted use. The only thing we're doing is we're doing that, but we have indoor facilities for overnight stays. The only difference between a pet daycare and this is, again, that overnight stay, which would be inside. And as Mark referenced from his minor acoustical study that he did as a non-professional, we don't anticipate any noise at all to be coming from that, especially with the masonry wall building out there. So again, that's what our perspective is. We'd like to strike 3B from the zoning text amendment and strike 6B from the conditions of approval. And again, I'll be here for any questions you guys have from a technical nature. Thanks.
Thank you. Do we have any commissioner questions for staff for the applicant? Commissioner Beaumont.
Yeah, thank you. For the applicant, I know this is a strange question, but it says other household pets. I know some people have exotic pets and stuff. Are you limiting what you take in overnight for people that have other than cats and dogs?
It'd be best if you stepped up to the podium.
Our business is solely for dogs.
Just dogs?
Just dogs. Cats have been tested in other parts of the nation, and it's not our plan to go forward with that in this facility. This is strictly dogs, no other pets whatsoever.
Okay. Is there a max stay at your place for a number of days?
Our average stay is 4 to 5 days, typically as a common, I shouldn't say common, I should say a citizen typically takes a vacation, usually 1 to 2 weeks, and that is the majority of our stays. We are not a pound or a shelter, so we do not have unlimited stays. To be quite honest, I don't have a procedure or a policy that states a maximum number of days, but I'm sure I can provide that answer relatively shortly.
Okay. Do you have a vet that's assigned to the kennel?
We do partner with local vets. There's one directly across the street. I've approached Oak Animal Hospital But we have not proceeded with anything and don't plan to until we have final approval. But yes, we will have 24-hour resources available, again, for the safety and well-being of the pets, if need arises.
So did I hear right that there's no night staff from 7 at night till 6:30 in the morning?
That is correct. We don't. That is the purpose of the 24-hour monitoring via video. So we do have cameras in the facility. We live approximately 8 minutes away from the facility, and if there was a need arises, certainly we would be available for that. But no, again, we have over 30 locations across the nation, and that has not presented a problem. And that comes from, I'll say, hundreds of years of experience. We have a CEO that started this, founded this business concept. We have a developer, real estate developer, director that opened 100+ facilities from another dog care provider, and that should not present a problem, again, from the years of experience. But they are monitored and supervised, just not on site outside of the hours of the business operating hours.
In your acoustical testing, I sent an email to Albert today about what the freeway ambient noise level was there, because I've been in the villas, and it's a background noise, but it's quite high, and especially depending upon what time of day it is. And
You're exactly right. The levels on the chart represented an average of approximately 65, and they went from 60 to 75, I believe. But I can tell you, and this is true in the shopping center that I was in, as well as at the along Alamo Drive, if a large truck or that has big wheels or a loud motor, it went way over 85 to 89 decibels, sometimes even exceeding 90. And that includes in a shopping center. I was in the Nugget Shopping Center in Davis taking readings, as well as the Plaza, as I mentioned, the Ranch, and along Alamo Drive. And when a big four-wheel drive with big knobby tires went by, it elevated it. And of course, the purpose of selecting this location is for convenience for our customers, but also anticipating the fact that that ambient noise from the freeway would drown the noise from our visitors.
I mean, I live out on Fruitvale and Gibson Canyon, and I can hear the freeway from there when
Yep.
trucks go by.
That's a fact.
So,
Yes,
okay, thank you.
you bet.
Commissioner Vargas.
Just a question of curiosity for staff. How long is that, so that structure that they're looking to go into for the dog stop was the old Pay Solano, how long has that been vacant? Do you know?
Do not know.
Okay. Years? I'm assuming years. Pay Solano's now over off by the freeway, right? Okay. Thank you. That was the only question.
Commissioner Dingman.
All right, Mr. Hendrickson, do you mind coming up to the podium here? I've got a few questions. Thanks very much for your presentation, and staff appreciate the presentation as well. I guess my first question would be, can you, just for edification of the folks here, what other dog boarding facilities are in Vacaville that you know of with your research?
I can provide a competitive analysis. I've been to almost every one. I can tell you where they're located. I can't honestly remember every site's name, but we have one right off the 80 just past.
Is there anything like the dog stop is kind of my question.
Absolutely not in this area.
Yeah.
They all have a purpose, and they do supply a need. So I don't make any disparaging comments.
Sure.
They are great for many pets, but they are not the same facility. I would characterize those more as country kennels. This is primarily an indoor facility, actually developed and started in an urban setting in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. So that's why it's primarily indoor, and we have the facilities, fixtures, and equipment and protocols for a primarily an indoor facility. So there is nothing like this in the area. I can tell you, if you look regionally, I've been to, and I'll just call them out, Camp Bow Wows I've been to in the, I'm trying to remember the name of the center, but it's at Hazel and 50. the same Camp Bow Wow on Fair Oaks Boulevard in Sacramento. I've been to Dogtopia at Stanford Ranch and in Davis. I've been to, and Camp Bow Wow in Livermore, Camp Bow Wow in Danville. I've been to all of those facilities, visited them. I just basically visited them as a customer.
Yeah, and I guess my point is, I, wanted to make sure that I wasn't missing something, but I'm not aware of another boarding facility like what you're proposing here in the city, because I know that I take my dog to West Sacramento when we have to border, unfortunately.
I'd like to also, sorry, not to interrupt you, but
Right.
Happy Paws, a great facility over in Dixon, just phenomenal, great owners, very caring and loving. They provide some other boarding for other animals as well. But they do a great job, but it's not the same.
Sure. And how many boarding kennels will you have?
Well, our proposal is to start with 72. I don't think we can add any more.
Yeah, that sounds like a lot. Have you had an opportunity to talk to your would-be neighbors in the commercial center there?
At the city council meeting, I responded to one in February, the day she sent the communication to the planning department. And she just recently sent another communication. Then she was concerned with breeding. And as I pointed out to her when we spoke, that, we don't breed. That was outlawed by Governor Brown several years ago, a few decades ago, actually. So there was no intent in breeding and the need to update the ordinance. But she didn't really have a concern with noise or odor at that time. But that was her concern recently, and I sent her communication and welcomed any more feedback.
Okay, but you have spoken to her.
Every single person I have responded either by email or spoken to in person. Anthony Pena, there's a Dr. Mueller, there's, I mentioned Marilyn twice, but I've responded to every one of them. I've copied the planning department, Brenna, and formerly Eileen Lee on any communication. As, again, a responsible business owner and a good neighbor with no intention of being a nuisance.
Okay, thanks. As far as the acoustic noise study costs, what's the approximate cost for something like that? And that question's to either you or staff. Do you know what the approximate cost is?
I do.
Yeah.
The reason I brought it up, the approximate cost is, and this is in Tennessee and Kentucky, it was over $20,000.
Okay.
Just for that study. And here in California, a few years later, I would expect it to be at least 30,000.
Okay.
Can I piggyback just a second? Was it clear defined scope of that noise study given to you? I mean, in the packet, it said a noise study is going to be done, but my question is, on that noise study, was it going to be after the project was in use? And was it like typical durations or times figured out? Was a clear specification given to you what the noise study was going to entail?
That's part of the reason why we involve acoustical engineers, because we can tell them exactly what our city standards are, and they will develop a proposed scope of how to make sure that they capture the noise, the existing ambient noise, and then whatever noise would be produced by that new use that would be establishing within the tenant space. And then that's a scope that we would review as well as with the applicant. And if the applicant's okay with that scope as well as the city, then that work could be commissioned. It would have to be done before the operation of the business and before the issuance of the building permits, because if there's additional requirements that are recommended by the acoustical engineer, that those would have to be implemented and disclosed within the building permits.
So in setting up that process, so you'd come to agreement with the business owner. How would you go about evaluating the noise in the area without the dogs of the kennel present?
So this is kind of a subjective scenario type of question, but I'll do my best to answer it, only because I'm not a sound engineer, and that's usually going to be devised by their tactics. But what we found from our research and reviewing these different 23 jurisdictions, as well as the noise of dogs, is dogs and their barking can reach noises of greater than 100 decibels, up to 115 decibels. And so that barking, not only within the existing tenant space, but also within that enclosed area, has a potential to increase that ambient noise. We had talked about what the existing ambient noise is. Yes, it's impacted by the freeway. There is a scenario in which you have existing conditions that are okay to operate because they're created from those existing transportation noises. But a lot of our concern is with the potential for exacerbating those existing issues for those existing residents. Would this project introduce new activities that have the potential for increasing the ambient noise within that area that would affect them in their either homes or within the private areas? One of the ways that they could test that is if they know what the sound of a dog barking is and those decibel meters, they can take those noises, project them from within the outdoor area as well as within the tenant space and get the understanding of what those measurements are. It's not just important to grab it during the daytime, it's also important to grab it during the nighttime because we have two different measurements. It's also reduced even further. So one of the things that we're primarily looking at is at this specific location, what are those noises going to look like daytime, nighttime at the affected sensitive uses? I also like to note that within the proposed ordinance, we're suggesting that this is necessary for those cases that, for any case, because this is not just an ordinance that is affecting this one location. It's an ordinance that would be applicable to all general commercial zoning districts, and so it spreads throughout the entire city. We might have other scenarios where it would be necessary because they're abutting adjacent sensitive uses such as elderly care facilities or hospitals or other things like that. We would need to determine whether or not this new use has a potential to create that issue. So while it may be specific to this project that there might be existing ambient noise that already elevates that noise in that area, our ordinance is designed for every case of scenario when you're up against a sensitive use. And some of those commercial areas are not located near freeways, and they may not be existing with those ambient noises. So what we're trying to do is cover the entire basis for any use that's looking at trying to establish within the general commercial zoning district.
So with that, so can you address the discrepancies that the applicant brought up between nuisance, so the section C, the nuisance abatement?
Oh, yes, yeah. So the section that was referenced by the applicant is referencing a section within our noise standards. It does provide exceptions that the standards do not apply, but I'll read it for you verbatim because there was some information that was left out. The section 4C refers to, it says, quote, for nuisance abatement related to residential generated noise sources, including but not limited to children playing, lawnmowers, barking dogs, and musical equipment. This exception to compliance with our standards are related directly to residential uses, meaning that if you're in a subdivision and you're having a fun time with your dog, you don't want to be having to deal with abatement issues with code enforcement because you're in a residential area. Those are noises that are expected to occur. I'd also like to cite within a section of our code of 1409-240-140C2B, it specifically states for project approval and operational standards that the Director of Community Development can require a noise analysis when a proposed use would potentially generate levels of noise which would exceed the standards for transportation sources and non-transportation sources. And this is specifically required within municipal because the director and the planning division the authority to require it when we see that there is a noise generating uses. And so it's not required in all cases because you might have a loud generating use that's located to other commercial instances where it's not even needed because there aren't next to sensitive uses. Primary reason why we're requiring in this particular case is because you have a generating use that has the potential for create noise. We're not sound engineers, but you're located right next to a sensitive use. In order to be able to make sure that we can meet those findings, that this is not going to introduce public health, safety, or welfare, or increase that existing ambient noise within the surrounding area, we need an analysis to confirm that information. And that's the purpose and the basis for requiring within the conditions of approval, but more broadly requiring it within the draft ordinance that's before you.
Got it. And so the section C brought up, it was specific to residential uses, not commercial uses.
Correct, yes.
Okay. Commissioner Banta. Oh, would you like
Yeah, go ahead.
No.
No, Ashley, we're good. Thanks.
Sure?
Yep.
All right, thank you for the presentation. I had a couple questions for the applicant. You said the max capacity is 72 kennels. Is that, what is the anticipated average capacity going to be?
During peak vacation times, so that is not an average. The average is closer to probably half that in a successful business.
Okay. And then my second question is, are boarding shelters, are they licensed, and are there regulations or requirements? Are there any state boards or anything that have requirements? And
Shelters need to be, are required to be licensed as well as our facility, and I've looked up the licensing requirements already. Yes.
okay, so as part of those licensing requirements, are there best practices or recommendations on noise mitigation or the sound of animals and all of these some of these concerns?
Not that I saw in my research and looking up the requirements.
Okay, thank you. And then my third question is, you had stated that the franchise has many locations. Has the franchise done any noise mitigation or studies in any of their other locations that would be beneficial to this project?
Yes, they have, and that's where I received my information, was from those studies as well, and all of them did have a successful approval after their noise studies were done by an engineer.
Okay, thank you.
You bet.
Commissioner Hampton.
Yeah, quick question. Thank you both, city and applicant, for your due diligence. During the planning of the interior design, were there any acoustical adjustments or considerations given to mitigate noise?
There haven't been at this time. Our experience and research from the locations across the country, the masonry cinder block construction of the walls will be more than sufficient to take the noise levels down to an acceptable level. I will also add that I did not include in the presentation, when I visited another dog boarding facility in the region, they were directly abutted on a shared wall that's made out, again, of a stud and, come on. Yes, sheetrock, stud and sheetrock. And they were open from 11 to 2 and 4 to 10. And I asked the owner point blank, in complete confidence, I would not mention their name or anything of that sort, but he said he has not had one complaint or one problem, and they are directly abutted on a shared wall.
Thank you.
You bet. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Hampton. Vice Chair Wilkerson.
Yes, first, thank you so much for your presentation. You did a good job. Dogs won't be allowed outside after what time?
We operate between 7 a.m. and 7 p.m. We don't have dogs outside of those hours. It's strictly during the day.
Okay. And staff, what time, if I'm in my backyard playing with my family, is a neighbor allowed to call PD on me? Is it after 10 p.m.?
Yes, the 10 p.m. is the marker for which the noise standards change and get more restrictive.
Okay. So how I'm understanding is dogs will be inside after 7 p.m., but code enforcement and won't even check until 10. So I think there's enough time in between there, in my opinion, to, I don't know if the noise studies is necessary, in my opinion. Secondly, there's other businesses in that, at the ranch, right? There's a trampoline park, I know it very well. Closes after 7, and there's noise let out when those kids are out. There's a gym next 2 places down that opens at 5 a.m. where there's noise as well. And then there's a dance studio that lets out. And so there's other uses in the area that already have noise at certain hours. And so I think we need to think about that as we put a small business owner through more things to do to take a bite at a bigger piece of all this. I don't know if it's necessary. So.
Thank you, Vice Chair Wilkerson.
I thank you for your comments, and I just want to respond, and not to disparage any business. I spent 10 years supervising a flooring stores as a regional manager, both in New England, managing 4 states, over 30 locations, and over 20 locations here in Northern California. The use of forklifts is a predominant way of moving those goods. And I would suggest that that forklift that will be in the plaza, the ranch, very soon, will be much more of a concern to the local residents than a random barking dog that could be the same as what you hear walking through the neighborhoods of Vacaville on a daily basis. So that would be my commentary regarding that statement. So thank you again.
Do we have any more questions? Okay, thank you very much. So now I'm going to open it up to public comment. Everybody's going to be allowed 3 minutes to address the commission with their questions or anything that they'd like staff to address. Seeing none, I'm going to close public comment. Bring this back for Commissioner deliberation. Commissioner Beaumont.
Thank you. In regard to the noise, it said in the proposal that if there was noise concerns after the fact, that the director could take over with some mitigation measures. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to make sure I understood that. Thank you.
Commissioner Dingman.
Yeah, thanks. Appreciate, again, some of the explanation, Mr. Hendrickson and staff. Thank you again for your due diligence. As a small business owner myself, I can say I am not a big fan of, I understand the acoustical study and the noise study, especially where this is in that, in the location of the ranch, and there's residential folks behind them. But based off of the explanation, the things that I've seen from both presentations, and also understanding that area pretty well, and just a burden of another $30,000, this city has got to be small business friendly from my perspective. And when we levy additional costs and those types of things on folks that want to move in and do good here, we do not have a boarding facility that is sufficient or meets the need of this, not just this city, but also of this county. I'm of the mind to ask for, I don't know what the procedure is here, Aaron, or whatever, but you know, if there's an option to pull the acoustical analysis off of it, or is it just a vote of no for me? So I'm having a public, comment here and asking a question, but that's where I stand right now and where I'd like maybe a little bit of feedback.
Yeah, so I'm with you too. So can you explain to us the process that went behind adding in that condition to the agreement?
Yeah, the staff is recommending that as a condition of approval. Should the commission wish to remove condition, I think it's 6B, you could make a motion, and we can put up the recommendation slide over there, and just make a motion related to the conditional use permit to remove condition 6B. And then that allows the council, when this goes to them for their action, to have that recommendation from the commission for their consideration.
Can you go a little deeper into the reasoning why that condition was applied?
Certainly. One of the things that staff is obligated to do is ensure compliance with our municipal code. We have a section for non-transportation sources. So when you have a new business, does that business have the potential for affecting adjoining sensitive uses? The key is the sensitive use. Sensitive uses are those residential uses, hospitals, elderly care facilities, lodging places that have the potential to be affected by loud noises. And so as a part of our process, as we're going through the checklist of does it comply with different sections of the municipal code, we get to the noise section and we look at what we can find from the internet, which is studies that are well known about the ambient noise associated with dog stop locations, businesses like this, animal shelter and care facilities. We know that those noises can reach around 100 to 115 for barking noises. And so that's enough information to say, okay, now there is a little bit of a concern associated with whether or not we can even comply. Now, normally in these cases, you have a project-specific applicant that could say, hey, here's a noise study. We looked at the project site and we were able to confirm compliance with the municipal code. but we could not confirm that. The applicant didn't provide us with a acoustical analysis. So what you can do is, as part of this process, is you can assign a condition of approval to ensure compliance with the municipal code. That acoustical analysis may not require any improvements to the tenant space or to the outdoor area, but is that affirmative information that's necessary to confirm this is not going to result in an issue. Alternatively, if no acoustical analysis is provided, then we have a little bit greater of an issue to meeting the finding that it's not going to produce a nuisance or it's not going to result in a negative impact to those existing residences. And so the alternative means that the director had mentioned is that we could rely on the potential for complaints to come and arise. The recommendation from staff is not to utilize that route because then the city is left holding the bag of dealing with those residents and having to fill those inquiries at staff time, having to go back and forth with the public when a lot of this can be resolved if we know for a fact that with that acoustical analysis, it's not going to be an issue. Now, again, this is involving those particular uses when you're sited next to a sensitive use. There's a lot of other commercial areas throughout the city where they're not located next to sensitive uses, so we wouldn't even require an acoustical analysis.
Commissioner Dingman.
Definitely appreciate, that's a great explanation. I think one of my bigger concerns here is after hearing the price tag on this, $20,000 to $30,000. I don't know about you guys, but I don't have that. As a small business owner, that's a lot to ask if that's the true price tag for a noise, analysis, number one. I think number two, the fact that there's no one here that is coming back to voice their concerns about this. They may bring it up to the council, and that would be sufficient, and that'll be something that they can definitely bring up there. But I'm very sensitive to that just because at the end of the day, we want to make sure that we're taking care of the people around it. I live off of Leisure Town. That expansion of the 4-lane road, it's definitely a lot louder there. I'm not super happy about it, right? But at the same time, we've got to move forward with progress. And so, I appreciate your explanation there. I appreciate that, but I definitely will be bringing a motion to maybe delete 6B, whichever one it is. And I'll let Aaron, you work out the legal jargon that needs to go with it.
So I'll take that as a motion from Commissioner Dingman.
Second.
I have a second from Commissioner Wilkerson. We'll let Director Morris. So we currently have a motion with a second with comments about removing 6B.
We're just looking at one.
Yep.
For the chair, I would note that the motion that's identified up on the screen has been modified to address the current motion that's on the table right now.
Thank you very much.
Is that going to address both parts, the text, and there were two parts that they talked about, right? Yeah. It was not just there's the text movement. It was in 3B, and then it was in 6. It's got to make sure to address both parts.
So I think why don't you ask your question to staff?
I just want to be clear that when the applicant or Mr. Ellis spoke, that there were two items, right? There was 3B and there was 1C. I want to make sure both those items, because those were speaking about the requirement. That's up there?
Yes, that's correct.
You're fantastic. Thank you.
So
Sir, we were conferring when you were making the motions. Are you motioning everything at once, the introduction of the ordinance, and the other mechanisms, or are you just doing the CUP right now?
So Commissioner Dingman made the motion. I'll let him.
The motion was to, John, you check my math here, okay? But I'd like to, the motion as written minus 6B.
All of it. Yes. Yes.
All of it minus 6B.
Sorry,
Correct.
Chair, point of clarification.
Yep.
6B removes the obligation for the applicant to comply with the ordinance. Is it the commission's desire with the motion to strike a requirement for providing an acoustical analysis in every case? That is the motion that's identified up on the screen. That was what we were understanding.
So when you say every case, you mean anyone that comes forward from here on out? Is that?
Correct. In the general commercial zoning district, if any use that qualifies as an animal shelter or boarding facility would not have to provide an acoustical analysis. The purpose of the condition of approval that's identified as 6B is to ensure compliance with the ordinance. So it would be inconsistent to say you're absolving a requirement or a condition of approval from the conditional use permit, but our ordinance still says that it's required.
Does the ordinance specify times of day?
For the acoustical analysis?
No, for the ordinance of the city, so the second bullet point item, amending, so you're bringing up amending the regulations on animal shelters and boarding in commercial general zoning. Does the ordinance now mention the time of use in that, or is it anything? Because here, an important point that, and what is swaying my time is that it's limited to a certain hours of the day in this case.
Yeah, with every conditional use permit and every minor use permit, we would be reviewing the hours of operation. The current ordinance has a limitation that's of 9 p.m. So that's 1 hour before the 10 p.m. change and when those noise ordinance. So that's already in our code with the draft ordinance. That would not be affected with the removal of D3. D3 is explicitly about requirement to provide an acoustical analysis to confirm compliance with the city's existing noise standards.
So just make sure everybody's on the same page. So the motion is also affecting any animal shelter going forward.
That's what we're hearing from some of the commission, but I don't know that there's agreement on that.
So, well,
Is there a way to propose a motion that removes the condition of 6B for this case only? I think that's what we're trying to propose.
I like that less honestly.
The answer is yes.
Right.
The commission, as part of the findings, as part of the recommendation, would have to find that there's specific circumstances associated with this location that would warrant there is no need for an acoustical analysis.
I got it. So, Commissioner Bowman, do you have something you'd like to say?
Yeah, I think it's pretty simple that we just excluded on this applicant, and every applicant after this has to stand on his own. And depends on where it's at, how close it is to sensitive areas or sensitive buildings, whatever it is. And so for this applicant, we can exclude 6B, but that doesn't mean the whole municipal code is changed for that.
Right.
It's just a singular motion for a singular application.
Right.
That makes sense, Alfred?
Yes, it does. In the motion that's identified up on the screen, that is an available recommendation for the commission, has been modified to reflect that. It's still in the ordinance, but it's been removed from 6B. I don't know if you need to start over with entertaining the motion now that it's identified for the commission.
Okay, so
But it sets a precedence, right?
Yeah, Commissioner Vargas.
I was just going to say, my comment, your concern is it sets a precedence, right, moving forward. Is that the concern from staff?
Well, I don't think staff is worried about a precedent because, as Commissioner Beaumont mentioned, that every single conditional use permit would have to rely on their own. So maybe there's a different circumstance at a different location where they are directly abutting existing sensitive uses, but there's no ambient noise from transportation sources, and so that's a different circumstance.
Okay, thank you.
Why don't you ask your question to Commissioner, to Director Morris, just to get cleared up?
all right, Director Morris, as we understand it, and staff, please, Albert, bullet 3 would be the option for us to propose that as a motion, correct?
You'd be proposing all of these things, and the third bullet reflects your initial motion to delete condition 6B.
Correct.
Yes. On this application, because it's a use permit for this application, it's not the ordinance as a whole.
Right. That is the motion I would like to put forward.
I'm still here.
And I have a second from Commissioner Wilkerson. Can I please have a roll call vote?
Commissioner Vargas,
Yes.
Commissioner Banta,
Yes.
Commissioner Vermont,
Yes.
Commissioner Dingman,
Yes.
Commissioner Hampton,
Yes.
Vice Chair Wilkerson,
Yes.
Chair Lightfoot.
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right. Thank you very much. Thanks for the presentations. Thanks for the great conversation. Great job, everybody, bringing that. Okay, so now we're going to move on to item 8B. This is the public hearing on the Potters Court North. We'll first hear a presentation by staff, followed by commissioner questions, and we'll open up for public comment where everybody have 3 minutes to address their questions. May we please have staff's presentation?
Good evening, Chair, members of the Planning Commission. The item before you tonight is the Potters Court North project. This is a request to construct 18 attached single-family homes on a vacant 0.88 acre site located north of Potters Court and south of Cogburn Circle. The image on the right side of the screen shows the approximate location within the greater Southtown neighborhood. This map is intended to convey the project location along Potters Court in Cogburn, south of Magnolia Park, along Vanden Road. And this aerial imagery was captured by our media team to show the existing project site location. The Southtown development was originally approved in 2004, and between 2005 and 2024, there were various entitlements that were issued for development within the Southtown neighborhood. This project started in March of 2025 when a SB 330 preliminary application was submitted to the city, and then later the formal development application was submitted to the city in June of this year. In August of this year, we also hosted a neighborhood meeting to solicit public feedback about the project. The project involves an environmental assessment and tentative subdivision map, conditional use permit, and a major design review. As I mentioned before, it's 0.88 acres with 18 single-family residential units yielding a density of 20.45 units per acre. There are 6 buildings that are comprised of 5 plexes and 2 plex models. The floor plans range from 2,250 to 2,600 square feet. Each unit would have a 2-car garage with 10 on-street parking spaces that would be provided. Vehicle access will be provided on Potters Court, with additional pedestrian access be provided on Cogburn Circle. Architectural design exhibits farmhouse architectural theme. The existing general plan is residential high density with a density that's allowed of 20.1 to 30 units per acre. The zoning district is RH for residential high density. This map shows the location of the project with the 5 plexes on the outside corners facing Cogburn Circle, and then 2 plex nestled between those 5 plex buildings, and then the other 2 plex buildings facing Potters Court. This is a rendering that was provided to us by the applicant that shows that sequence of 5 plex, 2 plex, and then 5 plex fronting along Cogburn Circle. And this is intended to convey the 2-plex and 5-plex elevations as they were submitted with the project plans and that were included in the Planning Commission packet. As we noted before, the application for a preliminary review of the SB 330 was submitted to the city back in March. That means that the project is protected under the Housing Accountability Act. The Housing Accountability Act limits, locks, and shortens. So it limits the reviewing authority for qualifying projects such as residential development to only being consistent with objective standards, and it limits the ability to deny or lower the density without specified findings related to health and safety. It also locked in development standards in March that were in effect at the time when that preliminary application was submitted. And it also shortens the review period for staff to determine compliance with the California Environmental Quality Act. It also limits the number of public meetings that can be had for this project to 5. Staff's job in this type of project is to determine consistency and compliance with the general plan and the Vacaville Municipal Code. The tentative map that is included with the project complies with the Municipal Code as well as the Subdivision Map Act and meets the required findings for approval. The conditional use permit that's necessary for the single-family attached housing product is conditionally permitted within the residential high-density zoning district. It is compatible with nearby single-family homes. This is a single-family home project, not a multifamily. So that single-family designation is consistent with other single-family homes that are in the surrounding area. It also meets the required findings for approval for the conditional use permit. The major design review is to look at the development objective standards that are within our municipal code, such as building heights, setbacks, architectural design. The project meets all of those required findings for approval, and it does meet those objective development standards. We're required under the California Environmental Quality Act to conduct environmental analysis. When we looked at the project, we found that the project it qualifies for an exemption under section 15332 for infill development, mainly because it's consistent with the general plan and the zoning designation, as well as the policies and regulations that are applicable to the project. It is located within the city limits, and it's on a parcel that's no larger than 5 acres. That's surrounded by urban development. There's no habitat for endangered, rare, or threatened species. The project would not result in significant effects related to traffic noise, air quality, or water quality. And then all existing utilities are existing around the site that can serve the project. Based off of this, we found that the project meets those findings and that there's no further environmental analysis that's required for this project. Project underwent public outreach, starting with a new project notice in July, and then a neighborhood meeting in August. We also provided notification about this public hearing before the commission tonight. Many of the public comments that we received at the neighborhood meeting, as well as the notice that was sent out, were related to concerns about the housing type, the size and scale of the proposed buildings, that there were concerns about insufficient parking, and there were concerns about traffic congestion, as well as whether or not schools would be able to serve this residential development. As part of the commission's packet that was available to the commission on the dais as well as on Granicus, we felt that was necessary based off of the number of comments that we received to respond to those comments. And so we published some responses. And ultimately what we found was that the project meets the city's objective design standards that's required under SB 330 or the Housing Accountability Act, that existing roads and utilities have been designed to serve the project, and that the project is consistent with the general plan and zoning. Staff does support this project because it meets the findings as conditioned. It complies with the general plan and zoning, and as well as the city's objective development standards. It would provide more housing, and it's a well-designed architectural project. The motion before the commission tonight is to affirm that the project is categorically exempt from CEQA and to approve the tentative map, conditional use permit, and major design review for the Potters Court North development with conditions of approval. That concludes our presentation. The applicant, as well as applicant's engineer, is available tonight to help field any questions that the commission might have.
Thank you very much. Any questions? I'll start with Commissioner Beaumont.
Thanks, Albert. Real quick, when was this property zoned RH?
2004.
So way back then? So
Yes.
You've known about this since 2004?
Correct, yes.
Okay. And the 10 dedicated street parking spots, are they on the court or are they in the development itself?
They're in the court.
Are they, when you say dedicated, can anybody park there? Does it have a restriction? How does that work?
Correct, yeah, anybody can park there, and it's similar to other subdivisions that are developed nowadays, where the on-site residential unit provides enclosed parking spaces, or they'll provide driveway parking spaces, but they're required to provide 2 spaces per unit. And then the rest of the guest parking for the entire subdivision is satisfied by on-street parking.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Vargas.
I'm trying to remember, because I live by Magnolia and we use that park quite often. Are you allowed to park on the circle itself? I know that there's parking at Magnolia Park. Do see some on Cogburn, but I can't recall if there's some restrictions on the circle itself.
On Cogburn, I couldn't tell you.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Do we have any other questions before we open up public comment? I'll now invite anybody who'd like to speak on this item to approach the podium. Once you get up there, I'll turn on your microphone and you'll be allowed 3 minutes to address it. Okay.
All good.
It's all good. Well, welcome.
First, I would like to talk about the Housing Accountability Act. So real quick, there's this perception that, well, the developer just gets to do what they want to do. Now, actually, per the Housing Development Act, the City Planning Commission has to follow standards. And so the first thing, applicability, the developer says that, well, the applicability section of Title 14 doesn't apply. No, actually applicability applies to the whole code itself. What's the applicability section? It states that it has to fit in with the community. Where do we see 3-story units, 18 on 0.88 acres? It does not fit into the community. There's been multiple people that have talked about that. And also, the developer brought up, per the HAA, the reasonable person standard. Okay, reasonable person is, if the whole community is 2 stories, then there's sections of 3, what would the reasonable person think? Does that fill in with the applicability section of the code of fitting in with the development standards? No. They'd be like, why am I at Magnolia and I'm seeing 3-story building right here? Would I want to live next to that? Heck no. Also, the developer states that, well, it's a single unit family home. We don't have to follow the 5-plex, 3-plex requirements of the city code. Well, actually, in your own presentation, it says it's a 5-plex. So what is it? Is it a single unit dwelling that applies under 0.50, under Title 14, or 0.60? They're saying 0.60 does not apply. Okay, well, under 0.50 M, it states you still have to fit in with the aesthetic design of the entire neighborhood. I do not see that with the city plan. So, since I got 1 minute, make this quick. To comply with the HAA, the Planning Commission first has to ask themselves, are they complying with the standards that are published online? We know that this is evident by the fact that they have to file for a conditional use permit because they're not complying with the single unit dwelling family homes. So we already know that they're not complying. They need you to approve it in order to comply, in order for their project to conclude. Their next argument is going to say, well, you have to explain that to a judge. Judge, my justification for denying this is their whole plan altogether does not fit in with this neighborhood. They had to apply for a conditional use permit to then comply with section 0.50. That's self-evident alone. So you have the authority under 0.50 to deny the project and still comply with the HAA. Thank you. I'm sorry I was nervous.
Thank you very much.
I'm a resident in Southtown, and I live about 3 blocks away from this location. So I would tell you, first of all, that that diagram that you saw up there is not accurate at this time. I've lived here since 2018. I moved here from Columbus, Ohio. This was really quite different from where I lived, which was a very blocked-in area that had already been built out as maximum as it could be. So looking at this now, there have been massive amount of building that's gone on in the last 5 years since I've been here. And if you look at that circle of Cogburn Circle now, there's another half of Magnolia Park that's not been opened yet, that will be opened soon. But there have been housing that's built all the way around that whole circle. All those homes are primarily 2-story. In addition to those, you'll see single stories. I happen to live in a single story between two stories. But then to see suddenly a 3-story coming in is like, whoa, what's going on here? So especially on less than an acre of land. I don't know what all of you live on, but I live on less than that, and it's a 1 single-story house. So it says in the proposal here, is project summary, it says there's 18-unit attached single-family residential development. I have trouble with that when I look at it. First of all, it says there'll be parking and 2-car garages. I don't know about all of you, but I like the garages in my area. They're used for storage and living space. And when I see parked cars, I've got a new house, new family moved in across the street from me. There's 6 cars that are parked there every morning. 2 in the garage, not 2 in the garage, 2 in the parking space in front of the garage, on the street in front of my house. And that's not been the case until that family moved in. So you get multi-generational, multi-ages, and you get a lot of cars. And you're talking about a park where when there are things going on at the park, you have lots more cars coming in, meaning there's less paying attention to pedestrians, kids, pets, people in general. You get older populations where they move slower, so there's more risk for accidents to occur. So I sent in a written summary of my concerns after the last call. So that was supposedly attached to this plan. So I would ask all of you to please consider this. This was supposed to be a master plan community. If this was part of the master plan, it certainly doesn't fit with what I see in my neighborhood. So thank you.
Thank you very much.
Commissioners, I just have one general concern, and it is the parking. I have two 7-year-old twins. We frequent this park a lot, and cars are bigger these days, and people are more distracted than they've ever been. Bringing in 18 units that are about 2,500 square feet apiece, you're going to have multiple people within those units that are driving cars. 10 spots on the road is not going to do it. People are not going to park in their garages. They're going to use the park to park their vehicles. I don't know what kind of ordinance we have to restrict that overnight parking, but it's going to be a constant fight. And I'm going to be constantly fighting, even more than I already am, trying to keep my kids safe. So I do not recommend this plan as it is, as submitted. The garages aren't going to work. They need dedicated parking spots. Thank you.
On? Yeah. Okay. How you doing? My name's Chris Rydell. I actually live on the court at 6072 Potter's Court, right across from the land. And I'm one of the tenants of the landlords. Anyhow, let's be reasonable here. You know, this is a monstrosity. 3 of them, if you guys allow these to be built. This area is for, you know, single-family homes, 2-story, 1-story, and you're going to put 3 stories right here. It's not a good idea. It's really just, it's kind of ridiculous in the setting that it's in. And a little history on the landlords. I've been an owner, I've been a renter since February of 2018. You know, they've been kind enough to put us in there, but there's 6 homes that they have on the street right now, multi-generational families living there. We have many cars. But they have raised the rent continually from 2018 all the way through COVID to this day. This is the first year they've actually just raised it just a little bit. And they only fix things when it needs to be fixed. So just letting you know who you're dealing with. I'm not sure how they will manage these 3-story apartment buildings. And that's another thing. You're allowing apartment buildings to come in to a residential area that do not fit. It just, come on, you know. See it from the people who are purchasing, the people who are renting, and the families that live in the area presently, you know. We all know apartments. I don't know, I've lived in apartments when I was raising our children, and as soon as we had a chance, we need to get out. Apartments tend to bring a little bit more trouble. And there's already, you know, there's things that go on at that park already. You could look through, the police department deals with it. And when you bring in an apartment, you're probably going to be bringing in, not necessarily, but possibly more trouble. And that's not going to be good for the residents. So please think about not allowing this at all. If they want to build single-family, 2-story, 1-story homes, right on. This thing is not a good idea. Thank you.
Thank you.
Floyd, and we are 3 blocks from where they're planning on putting in this apartment complex. My husband and I have lived there for over 15 years now, and when we initially purchased that land, there was nothing there. The park wasn't even there. It took forever to get the park done. But anyway, it's not suited for apartment living. The whole neighborhood's not. Like they have said, it's only 2-story is the highest. We're in the 2-story, and it's a home feel when you come to our neighborhood. People are walking on the street, doing their dog and biking, and careless kids in the street, popping wheelies, going down when they shouldn't even be there. But it is a hometown feel to where those kids know they're safe to be out there because we're not going to run them over. And the influx of all those cars and people in the apartment complex. My neighbor we have the same problem my neighbor does with 6 people using cars across the street from us to where they're using our parking space all the time. My husband has to race out there to put the trash cans out so we have a space to use that we're supposed to have. So that picture of the court that he put up there is not what's factually there now. And I wanted to take a picture before I came, but I forgot. There are already cars filling that court for the people that live there already. Some don't move, but most of the time we're walking the neighborhood and we see that court, and it does not look like what he showed up there. They had 4 cars up there. There's probably 10 on that court every day, no matter what time you go by. So that was a fallacy. And with that park across the street, we do have an influx of so many people into our community already that don't even live there because it's such a wonderful park. So to put this influx of more people like that in a townhome, and then the people there can't even see anything. If their kids were at the park, I'm sure that may have been a possibility why they purchased there. That was why we purchased there. But by the time the park got in, our son was old enough to be on his own driving a car anywhere he wanted to go. So right now, people are purchasing because of that park and the environment that we're living in. And so I would urge you, especially finding out that they had a conditional use permit. I didn't even know about that. And that just should be solving the problem right there, because they're not even using it for what it was meant to be. We were never buying in that area thinking of apartment living, because that is one thing we never want to do either. So there's a reason for that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any other comments?
Hi, my name is Rudy Nura, and I live on that court. And the couple points I'd like to bring up is this project is not consistent with the neighborhood. Put yourself in our position, wherever you're living. Would you like somebody to put a 3-story building right next to you? No. So I wouldn't recommend doing something like that. Basically, I look at this as it doesn't fit the neighborhood scale and character, number one. Number two, there'll be traffic problems over there. Drive there on the weekend, and Tim, you'll find that you can't even drive if a car's coming opposite way because the park is hopping at that time. Parties, birthday, whatever, and both of the part of the streets are blocked off with cars, so you have one lane going. What happens if you approve this plan and there's emergency? If my kid needs an ambulance and can't get through, or if you live in a neighborhood and an ambulance get there 10 minutes late or 5 minutes late, or middle age, I got a heart attack, every second's count. So we can't have something like this in our neighborhood. Secondly, it's a public safety. Another thing I like to bring up is this CQA. I don't think you guys should waive that because it fails on 2 parts, I think, traffic and safety, public safety. And another reason is I like to bring up is you guys are sacrificing the neighborhood for developer profits. That's how I see it. So please do not approve this plan. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Are there any other comments? Seeing none, I'll close public comment. Bring it back. We're going to start with just commissioner questions on any topic that was brought up with by public comment, and we can have the staff address those if you so wish. I'll start with Commissioner Beaumont.
Thank you. Thank you for those comments. I appreciate those. But I have a clarification. These aren't apartments. These are family-owned buildings that have an HOA. They're not renters. They are owners. Big difference. And if you want renters, they could put 26 apartments on that if they wanted to, which would be worse. That's what I look at. I look, what could we have that would be worse than this? 26 units of apartments. And so that's kind of how I look at it. This is better than what you could have. And these are family-owned people that are going to take care of their property. So that's kind of how I'm looking at it right now. And with SB 330 and HAA, we don't have a lot of discretion sometimes because the state kind of rules over us with what they've done at Sacramento. So we're in kind of a tough bind sometimes, but I'm looking at it in a positive way, if you can look at it that way versus what you could be looking at. That's how I'm looking at it.
Vice Chair Wilkerson.
Thank you for the presentation. I do have a few questions. We can't look at parking anymore because of the state regarding housing projects, right? The state has come in and said parking is no longer something you can use to deny a project.
Compliance with our city standards is the number one key.
Yes.
So when a project has demonstrated that they were complying with city standards, then any other additional concern beyond that is irrelevant.
Okay. And is the applicant here or the team? I'd actually like to hear from them as well. That's possible.
So do you have any specific questions you want to ask them?
I'd like to hear their vantage point of what, and maybe address some of the concerns that they've heard. So I'd like to have an opportunity to speak.
Okay.
So Chair, what I would say is if you're inclined to let the applicant speak now rather than when there was a question period earlier, then we should reopen public comment afterwards to allow responses to that.
Or we can limit you to 3 minutes if you'd like. Is that doable too? Can we limit them to 3 minutes?
We typically give them more than 3 minutes.
Yes, I'm not sure why the applicant didn't make their presentation after staff's, but they can have more than 3 minutes, but because the public spoke before they made their
We'll
presentation,
reopen
what I would
for-
ask is that we then reopen it to the public. If
Okay, yeah, we can do that. So so what we should have done was right after staff did their presentation and we had a round of questions from the commission, that would have been the proper time to do it. So we will let you speak and give your presentation. We'll have another round of commissioner questions afterwards, and then we'll reopen public comment and allow the public to give comment again. So.
Everyone, thank you for coming tonight. Thank you, Planning Commission, for hearing this project. Thank you, Albert and Brenna, for preparing it. I think they did a great job of explaining our goals. So we've owned this since 2004. It's been zoned for residential high density. We just haven't done anything with it yet. As one of our tenants noted, we do own the 6 houses across the street, which we built 7 or 8 years ago. And you know, we're excited to continue contributing housing to Vacaville as part of RENA. It's 18 units. It's on the lower end of the density, as Doug noted. That's pretty much it. I mean, I think it's pretty straightforward. I hear the concerns about the 3 stories. You know, we had the neighborhood meeting, but this is the project we could design within the constraints of the density zoning and the city code. So, yeah. And one more thing is, I should mention our architectural team is KTGY. They designed all the houses in the area on the west side of Vanden along Cogburn Circle. So when hiring an architect, we kept that in mind. We wanted to keep the character of the neighborhood, and that's specifically why we sought them out to design these houses, to stay within the character of the neighborhood. So.
Thank you. So I think Commissioner Wilkerson had some questions. Go ahead, Commissioner Wilkerson.
Yes, it's for the architectural team. Is someone here from? Okay. So that was my point. You guys have been a part of this process in the neighborhood of developing these homes for a long time, correct? Okay. And you believe what you're building is still going to be consistent with the neighborhood?
Jill Williams, principal with KTGY. We do. As we look in any new neighborhood, you're always looking to kind of expand upon what you've done in the past and keep making things better. As noted, this just has a totally different zoning to it than all the two-story single-family that we've done. So we have to take that into account. And so we really spent quite a bit of time studying how we could meet just the bare minimum of that and create something that we felt was very attractive. Happy to share anything else, but it wasn't, like I said, it took quite a bit of time with the team to come up with the idea and trying to create something unique, kind of unique on both sides of the block.
Right. I just wanted to point out that you guys have been working in that area for a long time, and I wanted it noted. So thank you. Appreciate it.
We have. Thank you.
Commissioner Banta.
Yes, thank you for the presentation and all the public comments as well. As Commissioner Beaumont stated, these are for sale properties, not for rent properties. That's confirmed? Okay. And for staff, when was this zoned residential high? How long has it been zoned that?
2004.
Since 2004. Thank you. And then on the objective standards on page 84, the table lays out that the proposal meets the standard objectives. The building height is lower than what residential high standard actually is by 5 feet. Is that correct? And the front setback is a little bit further actually, and the front setback on Cogburn Circle is 1 foot further also. Is that correct?
That's correct, what the table shows.
Okay, so they're within the objective standards of design for residential high development.
Correct.
Okay, and then they're using a similar, the same architect, so the similar design as in the neighborhood. Would I be able to guess that the materials may be very similar as well that may be used for this project?
We did choose to utilize more siding than I believe the neighboring homes have, and we just felt that that really added texture, the ability for some of the color that would make them have a very rich feel to them.
Okay, and then another thing that I did notice on the pictures, and I just want confirmation or not, a lot of the homes on Cogburn Circle are all front-facing with the garages on the backside, correct?
Correct.
Are these going to be, these are, in the picture, it looks similar to that.
Oh, I don't know that the existing homes do that, but what we're proposing have all front doors facing out on the two streets.
I'm pretty sure Cogburn Circle is very similar. I don't know if staff can confirm that.
The existing residents are along Potter's Court.
No, I'm talking about Cogburn Circle.
Those do have, yes, they have courtyards, and so you are seeing fronts without their garage doors, so yes.
Thank you.
Commissioner Vargas.
A few things. Thank you for the presentation. Much appreciated. I did want to ask it sounds like developers and maybe have some established relationships with Commissioner. I've heard some references by first name. Was there any ex parte communication that needed to be disclosed for this project?
I didn't know.
Okay. Sorry, I just heard you call him Doug. And then I want to acknowledge the individuals that came out and spoke. We do take public comment deeply into consideration, so I thank you for your time for coming out tonight. Thank you.
So, and you're going to get, go ahead, Commissioner Dingman.
Thanks to staff and for all the public comment. I want to ask a question specific to parking. On the same table that Commissioner Banta referenced, talks about street parking, 6 spaces is a standard. It shows a proposal for 10 spaces, but there's some common sense, I think, that gets thrown into that. There's a park, there's a lot of things around there. I would like to better understand from a code enforcement standpoint, what resources would the residents have if it gets to a point where they've got way too many cars out there. We understand and totally understand and get the garages get full. Where else are you going to park all the cars that are going to be around there, plus the use of the parks? What resources do they have and those types of things, if you could, Albert?
So we have a code enforcement division within the fire department that people could call with officers that go out and investigate to see whether or not there is an enforcement issue that they would have to take action on.
And just to the developer, would you guys mind talking about the parking in your analysis in that at all? And even there's garages obviously on the back side of these, but obviously there's some significant concern there. Is there somebody that could address that, please?
Good evening, Vince Bossi. I'm the project engineer. I've also got 22 years of experience throughout the Southtown development, believe it or not. To answer the earlier question, yes, there's no restriction on parking along Cogburn as well. There's only restriction on Vanden Road, the tiny side piece there. So they will be able to park both on Potter's Court and on Cogburn frontages. I think it was 10 spots we had identified outside of hydrants on the public streets between those two. Oh, and I'm sorry, and yes, you're correct. Garages are all on the backside on the internal driveway or alley, however you want to refer to it, 2 spots each unit.
How big are the concrete pads leading into the garages? Is there room for, I didn't get deep.
Like a driveway stall, if you will, or no, it's a common driveway, provides for fire apparatus access. And
they'll either have to be in the garage or out on the street somewhere.
That is correct, yes. And just to clarify the other point earlier, yes, the part of the application is a tentative parcel map, so each unit will be mapped and have its own parcel for ownership.
Okay, thanks very much. And to staff, Albert, when you guys did your Q&A session in the community in August, is that correct? What was it? Some of the same themes and questions and comments that came up then?
Correct, yeah, and that's part of the reason why we decided to prepare that memo for the commission, responding to a lot of those comments.
All right, thanks. That's all I have.
Doug, would you want me to open up public comment, or you?
Oh, I just have one quick question.
Yep, of course.
Is there an HOA? I thought.
Yep, please come up.
I think it makes a difference.
Yes, there will be an HOA. So that'll maintain the landscaping, et cetera.
So the 18 people have to decide who's going to be in charge of the HOA, is that right?
We'll draft a legal agreement and work with our lawyers.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Yep. So now I'm going to open up public comment again. And if anybody would like to address anything that was brought up in that conversation, please feel free to address the commission.
First of all, I want to know, how does that really fit in? How does it fit in? I mean, yes, you got down the street, something similar, but it's only 2 stories, and it's at the same height as all the other houses. This thing's quite monstrosity. Now, if they decided to build something like that, why couldn't they build it a 2-story? Why does it need to be? If you look at the picture, could you bring up the picture real quick? Please. Look at that. My goodness. What on earth? It takes up everything. Now you put single-story, single-family homes in there and it will fit. That doesn't fit. I know this is my opinion and it's my feeling, but I'm not saying they look nice. Yeah, they look nice, but that doesn't fit anyhow. So think about it. I know I don't know, think about it if you were living on that street and all of a sudden now this is being built. It's cool that, them, but if you had to live there and see that brought in, and plus on Cogburn here, it's going to be completely full. It'll be full. There'll be more cars on there all the time, which is a little bit of a, traffic issue. But anyhow, think about it. Don't just let it go through. Don't just let, them have their way. I know they're builders and they're trying to do their best, but think about all the residents and everybody that lives there. So give it more time before you let it go through, or do some more changes before you let it go through. That's just my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yeah, no problem.
Consistent with the neighborhood. So show me a building that's exactly that in that neighborhood, and I will draw my objection.
So what we'll do is any comment you have, we'll have staff address it after the end of public comment, any question that comes up.
So the point I want to make, there's nothing consistent with that with the neighborhood, because there's no other 3-story building. If you move on to the side, I live about a couple houses down from that street, around the bend. There are 2 stories, single story. Why can't they just build that? That's consistent with the neighborhood. To put that many homes in 0.88 of an acre, it's a recipe for disaster, I think. And look at that road right there. I have to drive the road daily. On the weekend, cars on both sides. I can't even get through there if another car's coming. I have to stop or pull over. And on the weekend, that thing is packed all the way around. And also on Monday and Tuesday, they have like soccer practice, kids activities going on. In the summer months, homeschooling kids goes out there too. So it's consistently packed with cars. So by putting those homes up there, those parks, and people start double park. And I've lived in a place where people double park, and it's a recipe for disaster, I think. So just think about it and just put yourself in the people that live in that neighborhood, how they feel about it. And I don't think anyone agreed to that. So just think about it before. And also, I know they have a job to do, they need to make profits, but maybe they can put 2 stories and everybody will be happy. We can come up to a happy medium for everyone. The city will get tax revenues, we will be happy, they will make a profit. We can meet somewhere in the middle. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
There was a comparison made to the other houses on Cogburn as far as parking goes. If you take into account those houses that do face Cogburn with garages on the backside, they also have a driveway. They have a place outside of the garage that cars can be parked, which is more consistent with reality. People don't park in their garages. They're going to fill their garages with all of their stuff that they're not going to look at for another 15 years. And then they're going to clog up the streets. They're going to clog up the park, and it's going to be a disaster. If this is going to be an HOA, maybe give some consideration to requiring garage parking as part of the bylaws, right? There are solutions available. And I fear for my children. Please consider it.
Thank you very much.
Okay, I feel for you guys having to make this decision, but Mr. Beaumont, or Commissioner Beaumont, when you said that it's not a apartment, these are single dwellings, well, I would hope so, but it's kind of hard to believe that when you consider that there are 6 houses on the back side of this that are now being managed by the same builders here. So I'm wondering if we're looking at an 18-unit apartment building instead of 18 different living units, but that's yet to be determined once this thing actually manages to go. So secondly, there is emergency services located around this circle. I don't know if all of you are familiar with that. Fire Station 75 is right there on the edge, right? So they're going to have to navigate this thing too. And, you know, thinking about what's coming up in the next few months, Santa Claus comes at some point, right? And so they start blocking off parking around the park. So you can't go there. So maybe that doesn't affect this year, but in future years, it probably will. I totally agree with the guy that said that he's really fearful for his kids. If I had small children, I'd be fearful for them as well. These kids are like, you know, nothing's going to happen to me. I'm in a great spot. I can take my bike and I can ride down this sidewalk and head on across that road and on into that park until you watch how the cars go around the circle, Cogburn Circle, with no speed bumps on it, okay? And then they start picking up speed because, oh, I'm late, I have to get somewhere, or I need to get back around this way really quick. And then you've got running through stop signs and you've got running around the circle going at faster speeds than 25 or 20 miles an hour. So really, there's a lot to consider here when you consider this neighborhood. And I know I'm one of the older residents in this neighborhood, but I really see a lot of kids and a lot of young families, a lot of military families that are renting units in this area, but they have small children. It's small families, and it's multi-generational families. So there's a lot to be considered. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
So, I don't know if I can answer this, but per the project plan for the street, for this whole project to comply with the setback measures per standard code, you have to move the street. So part of the project is to move the street closer to Vanden. Then it'll comply with setback. So how are we saying that it complies when we already have to move the actual circle down? So this neighbor here of mine, he's going to be backed up, which doesn't apply for this conversation, how they're going to fix that street. But how is it applying to the standards if you already have to fix the street to then go with their setback standards? And I'm still confused how they're calling this a single-family dwelling unit. When you actually look at city code, you're already referencing it as a 5-plex and a 3-plex, which goes into .60 requirements. But then they say, no, that doesn't apply. We're going with single unit dwelling, but we have to apply with conditional use permit. It's really confusing. Like how, it's like a la carte. The developer is saying, well, I'm going to pick whatever I can do to then cram all these into the city code. And if this doesn't work, I'll use this conditional use permit. But I thought it applied with city code. Why do we need a conditional use permit? Because they already mentioned in your own documentation that one of the recommendations from staff was to put up trees. So that poor neighbor over there with a 2-story will have extra trees, high growth trees. That's a mitigation measure. But I thought it applied with city code and the design standards of the neighborhood. So that's why I say, staff is saying to you, you pretty much have to approve it because it's the law. No, you don't. They're asking for a conditional use permit, which then really gives that authority over to your choice. The conditional use permit, is it, and I understand legally you guys want to make certain right now, is it hitting the standards? No, it's not. Self-evident by the conditional use permit. You have to authorize it for them to develop all this. And they already acknowledged it in their own document that it's not, they're higher than all the houses. And the staff mitigation measure was plant some high trees. That's all I gotta say. Thank you very much for your time. And I understand the legal, they're trying to pressure you. You are complying with HAA by denying it. They're not.
Commissioners, thank you for your time. Travis Brooks, Land Use Counsel for the applicant. You know, I get it. Housing development projects are always controversial. I have probably 30 housing development projects throughout the state. And in just about every single instance, neighbors do not want to see new housing development projects, especially at the unit mix and the density that really the housing crisis demands be developed to address the massive housing shortage throughout the state. So I'll just say, I just would like to address some of the comments about, you know, the HAA somehow not applying to this project because it requires a conditional use permit. It most certainly does. The HAA most certainly does apply in instances where a conditional use permit is approved. A conditional use permit is approved for certain uses that still comply with the objective zoning and development standards. And what they do is allow the jurisdiction to apply certain conditions to address certain types of uses, which is what the staff, I think, did a really good job doing here to address the residents' concerns. But this project is still very much consistent with the zoning and development standards, and that's where the HAA, really constrains local agencies' discretion to deny projects. And this project has been very thoughtfully designed to comply with the zoning of the site. I recognize the zoning's different than the surrounding neighborhoods, but that's within the city council's purview to adopt different zoning for the site. So if you have any additional questions, I'm here, and staff's done a great job as well.
Thank you very much. Are there any other public comments? And if anybody else like to, feel free to line up in the aisle here. Thank you very much.
How long we've been there and what the neighborhood, the people that we know on our whole street on Newcastle, three blocks away, they are families, and they bought because of that park, or they rented because of the location of the park and the elementary school that's right down the street also. Cambridge Elementary School. And so I know that that is a reason people move to our area or decide to rent there if they're military and just coming through for 6 years or so. And that the parking where they have the apartments going in, that whole thing on Cogburn, they're saying that people can park there, but the street is not meant for all of that parking every day. It's enough for it to be there when all these people, we have the influx on the weekends of people utilizing our park. And when that happens, you're driving in the middle of the road over that yellow line because you cannot drive in your own lane because the car is parked there. There's no marking there on that road yet, even to allow for bikes and parking on that road like you will normally see in neighborhoods, downtown areas, or wherever apartments are put in like that and they expect parking. There should be a space for a car to be parked there and still to have that space for lanes for people to drive through, because that is a throughway for people to get to Vanden now. If they don't use Foxborough Parkway. And since we've been there, we had a fight with the city 3 blocks over on Newcastle because people were utilizing our street as a throughway. And so what will end up happening is all these cars will be parked on Cogburn every day, all day, and people will start utilizing our street again, which is the one through street over from Cogburn. Because the engineers, when they designed our space, didn't open that up right away, and we had 3,000 cars during rush hour traffic. The city came out, the engineers came out, sat on a driveway, and we couldn't even hold a meeting because it was so loud. So what's gonna happen when you have all this parking on Cogburn every day and people can't get through there, they're gonna come back to our street to get out to Vanden because there's no throughway anymore where they're finishing the park. There's no way to get through. So there's only Cogburn and Newcastle to get back out to Vanden to get to Leisure Town. And we have the influx when something happens on 80 and people are coming from Leisure Town to Vanden for them to find their way home after they've been stuck on the freeway for 3 hours. So, and to address you, Mr. Beaumont, yeah, we could have a worse area. We could have apartments and all of that you're saying. But the other part is we could have a 2-story just like everybody else, or we could just have houses like that have already been built in the whole neighborhood. What's wrong with more houses? There's that alternative too.
Thank you, your time's up.
Okay.
Is there any other public comment? Seeing none, I'll close public comment. So what I'd like to do is if anybody has any questions about anything that was brought up in public comment that they'd like staff to address, I'll give you guys a shot, and then I can run down anything else that with staff that they might want to bring up as well. No? Okay. So,
I will ask one question.
yeah. Commissioner Dingman.
Yeah, for staff, Albert, if you could address, so this is an 18-unit project on 0.88 acres. That's, it sounds like there's a bigger traffic and potentially code enforcement issue already existing out there. I mean, this will obviously add to that, especially if everybody has to park their cars in there. What I'd like to know is there a plan, or has there been any discussion on that loop where the park is, or anything else to address? Ma'am, I forget your name, thank you for the comment, but I don't, for bike lanes, for specific parking on both sides of the street, I mean, if those are some of the things that are already ongoing, it seems like there's a pre-existing problem that's already happening that we probably need to take a look at anyway. It's not just specific to this project, I would say, number one, and number two, when you talk about reference to code enforcement, what does that mean exactly for the gentleman who's got, you know, 2 twin boys, right? So I'd like a general answer just for the folks that are here, because we also know that, you know, to the developer's point, you know, we don't have enough housing in this area. I'm a military guy. I know that we need all types of different housing. Not every airman out at Travis Air Force Base can afford a single family home. There's got to be different types in all places that have access to nice parks and good schools and all those things. So how do you find that balance? But going back to the question I'm coming to you with, Albert, I'd like to understand a little bit more about how we make this safer and how we take the existing, you know, roads and parking spaces and the limited space that we have. You know, none of us were here, I don't think, when this was zoned, you know, RH, right, back in 2004. Maybe there were a few folks, I don't know. But I'd just like to, you know, work through that a little bit for the folks that are here, okay?
Director Morris.
Thank you, Commissioner Dingman. I just want to note that existing conditions are really outside the scope of what a new development project is required to solve. I also want to surface that this project has been thoroughly reviewed by the Vacaville Fire Department, Public Works, Traffic Engineering, and they've determined that these roads as designed are adequate to serve this project and the existing neighborhood. It doesn't mean that what people are describing isn't real, that there's congestion around city parks and that kind of thing, but I just want to assure you that as part of our development review process, our fire department, who operates all these vehicles that need to get around, as well as Public Works and Traffic Engineering, are all over this, and they actually helped us respond to some of the concerns that surfaced in correspondence to really make sure we'd looked at that thoroughly. And as far as code enforcement goes, we have a lot of folks in Vacaville who don't use their garages to park their cars, and that's not typically a code violation. Sometimes code enforcement gets called because people are parking their cars for excessive time periods along the right-of-way, and that is a tool that the city, I mean, that's something the city can enforce and deal with, but I think if we go around Vacaville right now, we see that a lot of people don't park in their garages. And this project is required to provide the parking. Through the HOA, they could possibly require the use of the parking, but again, it's our review is very much limited to compliance with objective design standards, and it can't really get outside of that without violating state law.
Thank you, Director Morris, appreciate that. And as I understand it, the reason why this project is 3 stories is because of the garage requirement, because there's not enough room for parking. Is that a correct assumption to the developer? Okay. That's all I have, thanks.
All right. Is there anything you want to bring up from public comment from your notes before I dig in? I have only a couple. No? Okay. So let's talk about design consistency. So the design standards that are applied to this, and we heard a lot about it not fitting in with the design standards. So I think we understand that residential height density can be 3-story, but what about the overall aesthetics and its review, and how did we apply those to the design standards of the area?
Thank you for the question, Chair. I think that this conversation is an important conversation because it's precisely what the state has interjected in, which is the subjective opinion about whether it's consistent with the existing design. I'll draw your attention to the screen, which is what the state has said, is that they've set aside the conversation about the subjectiveness, which is would it comply with the appearance of the existing neighborhood, and they have said you are to only measure whether or not the project is going to comply with objective standards. In the state's definition, they've made it clear, they said standards involving no personal or subjective judgment by a public official and that are uniformly verifiable by reference to an external benchmark. These standards must be measurable and consistently verifiable by both the developer and the public official, which allows for a more streamlined and predictable approval process for housing projects. Examples include specific requirements for lot coverage or setbacks, which are quantifiable and do not rely on the opinion of a reviewer. And that is what we're held to. And so it's less about does a 3-story fit in here and more about what is the maximum height that is allowed. Do they comply with that? Are they allowed to have a setback that's of a certain distance away? Are they providing the necessary parking? It's a checklist. If they're able to hit every single checklist, and the state says you cannot deny that type of a housing project.
Commissioner Wilkerson, do you have something to add?
Yeah, I'd actually like to make the motion.
If you just hold off, I just got a couple more things to run through. It'll be real quick, if you don't mind.
Okay.
So, and my intention is just to make sure that we address, any other concerns. So, one of the things that was brought up was why we're going through this process and how a conditional use permit's coming in front of us. And I just want to make sure that there's no questions outlining about what really we can do and what standards we're having to use to approve this project and why we're here.
Sure. The conditional use permit is a type of land use entitlement, just like a major design review. So in this analogy I'll use is that a major design review covers architectural designs, compliance with development standards. For projects like housing development projects that are permitted by right, that are brand new construction, those would be kept at a staff level review. The purpose of a conditional use permit is that the proposed use that's being introduced demands a higher level of review, and that higher level of review is the 7-member body right here. And so the purpose of the conditional use permit is because they're proposing single-family attached housing in a residential high-density district. The reason why that's an important review is because normally what you'll find in a high-density zoning district like this one are apartment projects, much higher density. And so when you have a zoning district like RH that allows for apartments, when you introduce single-family attached units, that has the potential to create a conflict with those other apartment projects. And so that's the purpose of a conditional use permit, is to provide that higher level of review, more public outreach process, so that way the commission can review that entitlement. There's still a set of findings and development standards that has to comply with, and in this case, as part of our presentation and staff report, we outline that it does meet all of those findings.
Thank you. Any other comments or Commissioner Wilkerson?
Yeah, I'd like to make the motion by simple motion, adopt a resolution of the Planning Commission of the City of Vacaville affirming the Potters Court North development is categorically exempt from the California Environmental Quality Act pursuant to Section 15332, Class 32, and approving tentative subdivision map, conditional use permit, and major design review for the Potters Court North development, subject to the conditions of approval.
I second that.
So I have a motion by Commissioner Vice Chair Wilkerson and a second by Commissioner Banta. May I please have a roll call vote?
Commissioner Vargas?
Yes.
Commissioner Banta?
Yes.
Commissioner Vermont?
Yes.
Commissioner Dingman?
Yes.
Commissioner Hampton?
Yes.
Vice Chair Wilkerson?
Yes.
Chair Lightfoot?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you all for coming tonight. So next, we're going to move on to the Markham Callan Neighborhood Plan. Does anybody need a break, or are we good to go? Good to go. Okay, so we're going to move on to item 9A. This is business item. We're going to receive a presentation about the Markham Callan Neighborhood Plan. We'll first hear a presentation followed by commissioner questions, and then we'll open up to public comment. This is an information-only item, so we'll receive this and then provide our feedback. Thank you. Please proceed.
Good evening, members of the Planning Commission and all those in attendance. I have with me Ryan Lester from Mintier Harnish. He is from the consulting firm that has been assisting us in this process. So first, some background on the plan. In December of 2024, the City Council authorized a professional services agreement for planning consulting services with Mintier Harnish to assist the city in the preparation of the Markham Callan Neighborhood Plan. In January 2025, staff and the consultant initiated the preparation of the plan. And in July 15th of this year, we held a study session with you all, giving you a status update on the preparation of the plan. And we also held a similar study session on August 26th with the City Council. On September 29th, a draft plan was posted on the project website for public review, and public notice was given. And in early 2026, staff will present the Markham Callan Neighborhood Plan to the City Council for adoption. So to clarify what the plan is, it will identify a vision for the community and strategies to improve the quality of life for residents, businesses, and stakeholders in the area. And it will also identify strategies to enhance and expand existing businesses and identify and evaluate opportunity sites for development. The plan focuses on improving the built environment in a manner that supports social and economic mobility. The plan does not change the city's general plan, zoning, or other city policies, but will guide future city actions in this area. For example, the city of Richmond, California, adopted a neighborhood plan similar to this, and it led to community partnerships and staff actions to attain grant funding and implement programs that achieve the desired outcomes of their plan. So something similar could occur here with this plan. And I may go rather quickly through these next couple of slides since they were already presented in the last study session, but if there's any information that you'd like me to circle back to, we can do that after the presentation. So the plan area consists of a variety of uses, including single-family and multifamily residential. We have the Edwin Markham Elementary School, Vacaville Boys and Girls Club, Opportunity House, a lot of commercial in the area, 2 shopping centers. And we are currently in phase 5 of the plan process. So as I mentioned, the draft plan has been posted and is ready. And it is here being presented to the Planning Commission for your input. And we will go to City Council next to receive their input as well, come back with a revised plan that we'll present in January to City Council. And there were 2 plan reports that were prepared to help us in the development of the plan. They included an existing conditions and trends workbook to assess existing conditions in the area, and an issues and opportunities report. A technical advisory committee was assembled with a variety of representatives from city staff, and they provided technical input on conditions, constraints, and opportunities and other development-related information in the area. Public notice was provided throughout the process using a wide variety of means, as shown on the screen. And a vast community engagement initiative was conducted with a variety of methods, including surveys, comment boards, stakeholder interviews, and an email list. And there are also some events shown here on the screen that were conducted. And here are some photos of the events. So to dig into the actual draft plan, there are 3 main components of it. The first being the opportunity sites. So these are 6 sites with the potential for development or redevelopment that were identified by both staff and the community. And they contain recommendations for new development that were identified based on surrounding development context, zoning and general plan designations, and community input. It also includes an idea for an enhanced open space connection identified between Char Park, Rocky Hill Trail, and the De Colores Park to provide design and programming that increases physical and social connections. And lastly, there are 6 housing sites from the housing element that are just identified for reference, that we know they're there. So the first site are these 2 areas here. And they are comprised of the Solano County Corporation Yard and the Vacaville Unified School District Vehicle Storage, as well as the Shireen Wilkerson Academy of Excellence. We did propose several different uses here, including multifamily residential, missing middle housing, residential care facilities, public and semi-public uses, and neighborhood commercial. And again, to reiterate, these are just in the case that these uses were to relocate. We don't have any knowledge that they'll be relocating anytime soon, but if that were to come up, then this could be a potential alternative for new development. We don't propose any alternative to removing the Shireen Wilkerson Academy. That is very compatible and a great asset of the community, and there are opportunities to possibly even enhance that here. And just to quickly define some of these uses, residential care facilities are also known as assisted living facilities or residential care homes that provide housing and personalized care for individuals. Public and semi-public uses include educational facilities, cultural institutional uses, and institutional uses, health services, parks and recreation, general government operations, and other similar and related supporting uses. And neighborhood commercial are neighborhood centers that provide goods and services to meet the day-to-day needs of residents and visitors, such as food preparation, bakeries, offices, personal services, and retail sales. And missing middle housing is a term developed by Opticos Design. It's a range of house scale buildings with multiple units that are compatible in scale and form with detached single-family homes, such as duplexes, triplexes, and other smaller scale multifamily housing. So those uses are also considered for sites 3, 4, 5, and 6. Site 2 located here is the Iglesia Batista Church, and we are not proposing that that use go away, but it does have the opportunity that was identified by the community for some possible recreational activities like soccer fields and things like that. The second component of the plan is the community vision statement. And this is an amalgamation of desired outcomes and really how the residents foresee their community in the future. And this helped to inform the policies to help achieve this vision for the community. It reads as, the Markham Callan is a peaceful community known for its vibrant culture, accessible parks, and thriving local businesses. Diversity and cultural identity are respected and celebrated by residents and city leaders. Community events and services support the interests and needs of youth, adults, and seniors. The local economy is robust with many opportunities and resources for employment and entrepreneurship. Residents feel safe and comfortable walking and biking along the lively, bustling streets between their homes, school, work, parks, and shops. The Markham Callan area is a place where families grow together and support each other. And the final component of the plan are the goals, policies, and programs. And as I mentioned, these are a series of actions and policies that help to achieve that community vision. And these are categorized into 6 topics. They include the first being community character. And to summarize some of the goals and policies for this component, there are programs that seek to support cultural events and art, funding for housing, maintenance, and rehabilitation, facilitating the opportunity site development, conducting cleanups and deterring illegal dumping, seeking funding for a facade improvement program. For the community facilities aspect, there are programs that seek to develop publicly owned sites for parks and other facilities, support improvements to Rocky Hill Trail, such as art, events, cultural themes, lighting, and other features, seeking partnerships and funding for community investment, facilitating events and community programs at De Colores Park, and enhancing the community garden. For economic development, there are programs that seek to incentivize and support existing businesses, work with local partners to publicize employment opportunities, develop mentorship and financing programs for small businesses, encourage and facilitate small and home-based businesses, and support cultural events and markets. And for the final three, with transportation and mobility, we are seeking to encourage enhanced pedestrian crossings, look into conducting a traffic study around Markham Elementary and identify traffic calming measures, evaluating opportunities for bike infrastructure and assessing opportunities for new city coach services and additional bus shelters in the area. For community health, we are looking to support healthy food, recreation, and exercise programs in the area, expand off-street paths for walking and biking, increase community engagement programs with the police, create public safety programs and partnerships, develop an anti-displacement program, and preserve affordable housing. And lastly, for local services, we're looking to assist the maintenance and expansion of services and resources for the homeless, support treatment and rehabilitation centers and programs, and maintain an inventory of resources in the area. To conclude, the draft plan will be presented to the City Council on November 19th, 2025. In early 2026, a final revised draft will be presented to the City Council for final adoption. And staff recommend that the Planning Commission receive the informational presentation. Any questions or comments?
We'll start with, thank you very much. We'll start with Commissioner Beaumont.
Yeah, thank you. Just one quick comment. Do I remember that there's hardly any money for this designated to make this happen?
Yes, Commissioner Beaumont. This plan was funded by $100,000 from the City of Vacaville, in contrast to our Peabody Allison specific plan, which is $1.2 million of state funds.
Okay. Yeah, thank you.
Commissioner Banta.
Thank you for the presentation. My questions are about the opportunity sites. Many of those are not owned by the city and have ownership, and so I'm interested as to how they were identified as opportunity sites when they already have a private use, and like those people may have a function for what they want to do, when there are also lots of vacant sites in this plan, like vacant buildings, vacant businesses. And so I'm just wondering why those were chosen as opportunity sites and maybe some vacant businesses weren't. And is there an emphasis on helping? There's a lot of talk about economic development. So is there any conversation about how to help those businesses that are, and those vacant buildings that are sitting in this neighborhood?
Absolutely. I believe one of the policies and programs seek to identify a resource list of those vacant businesses and help attract tenants that would be suitable for the area. As far as suggestions for any other sites, we're open to hearing any recommendations that you may have, and we can look into that as well. As far as the private development, I believe the church is one of the private development properties there, and that is something that we can discuss with the property owner just to confirm, and we have reached out to make sure that they'd be on board with it. We still need to talk a little bit more about what they're willing to do as far as enhancements on their own property, but that is something that is feasible. And for other sites,
I would just add that this plan was really community driven, right? We didn't add a lot of our own personal opinions on these things. So these opportunity sites were really sites that were pointed out by the public, right? When you're walking along the trail and you see the church and all the vacant acreage as the back of the church, you might get an idea. And some of the people in the public did, and we heard, hey, there could be soccer fields there. So really the plan itself, as well as the opportunity sites, are a reflection of what we heard from the community directly.
Okay. Thank you.
And just one last comment on that point too. Thank you, Ryan. Opportunity Site 6, I believe this is privately owned as well. This is part of our downtown specific plan, I believe, and is zoned for downtown general commercial, which also calls for a substantial amount of development potential as well with housing and commercial uses possibly. So that's something we also looked into.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Banta. Commissioner Vargas.
Thank you for the presentation. Very much appreciated. You know, this is a community that is predominantly Latino and Black. I think we all know that. I've talked about the area just from a personal perspective. My parents lived off of Holly Lane. The starting point here, converting that 7-Eleven on the corner to a Boys and Girls Club was probably the starting point of really infusing some life into that community. But I do want to highlight the disparity in the money spent in that area in comparison to other areas of Vacaville. I think that needs to be noted. And certainly needs to be, there's work that needs to be done. I do want to thank staff and for really engaging the community and getting their input, because I think really it should be community driven. There's a lot of feedback and information that they can provide. I still have a vested interest. My son goes to Markham. He's in the Spanish immersion program there, and there's a lot of work that needs to be done. And this certainly is a very good point to highlight that area, because I think highlighting that area where I think many within the community, from affluent to impoverished, find that to be kind of the lower end of Vacaville. And so naturally, if you spend more time, money, and effort, it could be fair across the board. So I will make that point. But again, thank you for the efforts that are done here. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Commissioner Vargas.
Yep.
Commissioner Hampton.
Yes, thank you for the presentation. Nicely done. Just a quick question. I know you targeted a variety of venues for interventions. One of them was the Boys and Girls Club. I'm interested, was there any specific interventions at this point, or is that something that's evolving?
Could you please clarify your question one more time for me?
Okay, you targeted a variety of venues within that area for intervention. I'm curious, one of them was the Boys and Girls Club. So what specifics are you looking at in supporting them?
Yes, so they are currently proposed to relocate out of the area. I believe they were approved for a new site. So there are a variety of interests that are looking to go into that area. Some being City of Vacaville organizations like the Police Activities League, possibly. So what this list of recommendations provide, and I believe that is site 5 here. So it could be replaced with other public or semi-public uses, such as another organization like the Boys and Girls Club that could go there and fulfill that role, which we would like to see, because there is a desire and demand for youth supportive services.
So
but it could also support other types of uses as well.
location, it's already there. So what are you going to, the question was, what are you going to do to specifically support that site?
I can answer that. So this plan doesn't get that far into it. This is a rather small plan built on what is the vision of the community, right? What we heard from the community that was, it would be great if another public serving use went in there, right? It serves our kids. We want another use that goes in there. Don't put in a corner store or something like that, right? We heard a lot about that. We did not engage potential tenants of that space. That wasn't part of the scope of this plan, but certainly looking at, okay, well, what does the community want to see in that building in the future? And how can we note that so that as decisions come before you all in the future, you know what the public has said they want to see in that site, and you have that input connected.
Okay, so the issue here is what you're looking at proactively down the road for those specific sites, which have been unidentified at this point.
Yeah, because the community had a lot of opinions on those sites and what could be there, anywhere from low density residential to higher density residential to small commercial uses or neighborhood commercial uses, and then of course public serving uses.
And one last comment, some of the programs and policies that are in other sections of the plan speak to finding funding for additional mentorship programs and things like that that could also go with any future youth supportive uses or any other similar uses that go in that area. So any funding that the city goes after as a part of this plan or is able to achieve in accordance with this plan can be applied to that site in the future.
Thank you. Yep, thank you very much. Commissioner Wilkerson jumped in just before you.
Thank you so much for the presentation. To Commissioner Hampton's point, that site is no longer used by the Boys and Girls Club.
No, it currently is.
Currently still is?
Yes.
Okay. So in the future plans, if the Boys and Girls Club were to vacate, I would love to see the city entity of like the Police Activities League move in there so they could actually have their own home, right? They're in a portable right now. And so if it were to become vacant, I would just want it on the record that I'd love to see the Police Activities League go there. That then would be able to enhance PAL and their place, but then also that would free up 2 portables at the place that I have a vested interest, the Strain Wilkerson Academy of Excellence, where they could have more schooling done on that location because they're not able to build up. So that would also free up another portable. So I just wanted to put that on the record. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chair Wilkerson. Commissioner Brinkley.
Thank you. I had a question about, you had mentioned that the neighborhood plan could help with grant funding. Could other entities such as the Vacaville Unified School District, the City of Vacaville, obviously, or the county or any of these private entities that own the property use this plan as part of like reference, I guess, for their grant as well? Because as noted, there's Vacaville PAL, there's right now still Boys and Girls Club, there's the Sway, Serena Wilkerson Academy of Excellence School, and all of them could probably use a neighborhood plan like this in support of grant funding. So would that be applicable?
Thank you, Commissioner Banda, for that question. That is one of my greatest hopes for this plan, that because it articulates a community vision, because it's not inconsistent with the general plan or zoning, but it's not trying to be a regulatory document, that it can really be utilized by groups seeking funding. Like, so be regulatory. Not only is it consistent with the city's general plan and zoning, but this use that we want grant funds for is consistent with the vision of this community. So that's like my highest aspiration for this plan. And I would welcome organizations within the plan to really try to utilize it for that and count on staff as a resource to help with that as needed.
Thank you, Commissioner Bantam. Commissioner Barkas.
Yeah, to Commissioner Wilkerson's point is the move or the relocation of the Boys and Girls Club from the neighborhood is a big loss. I mean, it's moving all the way to Peabody, which is kind of outside of that general area. And they provided a ton of support in the scope of just activities, daycare, childcare, everything. And so PAL would be certainly, maybe it's a co-housing type situation, but a lot of those resources and services out of that Boys and Girls Club are going to be lost for the community. And that's a big loss. I'm sure that was conveyed to you all from community members. And so I certainly would encourage an entity to have preference if they're able to replace some of those amenities and accommodations and resources that Boys and Girls Club offered. So last thought.
Just a point of clarification, Commissioner, they're not moving. They're still located there.
Oh, they're going to stay?
Yes.
Oh.
Yes, it's a satellite, it'll be a satellite campus.
Thank you. That's hot off the presses. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Hampton. I think we make a note of that in the plan that they might be, so we can adjust the language in the plan accordingly. Thank you so much for that information.
Are there any other questions or comments? All right. Thank you very much for your time. So next, we'll move on to item number 10, the director's.
Thank you, Chair Lightfoot, and welcome Commissioner Hampton. It's good to have a full commission again. I'm just, as lead staff for this group, I'm really excited that we now have an odd number fully seated group. Congratulations to all of us. Okay, so I'll start off with some city council updates since the last planning commission meeting. On September 23rd, the council considered the initiation of the Vine Tree Estates General Plan Amendment. If the commission might recall, last year they declined to initiate. This year they did initiate the amendment. So that will be coming in as a formal development application for processing and will eventually make its way to Planning Commission. The council continued the pro-housing designation program from an October meeting to a later meeting. I'll just let you know that, the spoiler alert, they did authorize us to submit that application. So we are going for pro-housing designation, which means we're eligible for PIP funds for transportation and affordable housing projects. So once the state writes us back and accepts our declarations. In September, the council also held a very late night development impact fee study session. You didn't need to stay up that late to watch it. You can just watch the video. It was very interesting and long. And then most recently on October 14th, the council considered the fields at Alamo Creek and McMurtry Creek Estates. Both those items were here at this commission previously, and they did approve those projects, and they'll go back for a second reading of the ordinance next week. And then the council initiated a general plan amendment to the site formerly known as Southtown Apartments to take the density down. That's possible because that's not a housing element site, it turns out. And they said yes to the initiation, and the project has been renamed Harvest Ridge. So when you see that name, that's the Southtown Apartments site. And it will be single-family detached homes on small lots, according to what the developer is proposing. So we haven't gotten that application yet either, but it's coming. And then of interest to my department and to developers, every 3 years, the city has to update our codes, our building and fire codes, and we are completely on schedule. The council considered the first reading, and then they'll have a presentation at their next meeting and the second reading, and everything will be in place for the new year by January 1st. Okay. Future Planning Commission items. We have plans for you all for the next 2 months, so please plan to be at Planning Commission. It'll be more helpful that way. We have the Independence at Vacaville apartment project. Actually, not apartment. Yeah, it's apartment. It's attached townhomes that are rented out, so rental project. We'll have a study session on the city's battery storage ordinance. We'll have a scoping meeting for the East of Leisure Town environmental impact report here before the end of the year. You'll be holding the scoping session. We'll have a Peabody Allison land use alternative study section, and we also have the North Orchard Oaks Apartments project coming your way before the end of the year. So 2 full meetings. Again, please be here. Pending, we have the Weber Road Development Agreement, the Orange Drive Apartments, and then we're going to be bringing you a report on a topic that's important to Vacaville called the housing no net loss issue, and that will be coming to you in December. Again, please be here. Okay, let's go to the fun stuff. Building Division monthly report. It's really no surprise that although it's been slightly slower, it has actually still been busy in our Building Division with many permits issued. Our year-to-dates are still really high. And I think I have 2 months of monthly. Pima, can you go to the next slide? That was the August totals. This is the September total. So cumulatively over 2 months, our year-to-date total has reached 3,000 units issued this year, including 245 single-family homes, 394 homes finalized. Again, it's been very busy over there. Let's go over to the next slide. This shows our activity. September was busier than August, but July was the absolute busiest month in this year that's shown on this chart. And again, that's not surprising, but I just would say activity remains very sustained. And then we are still trending at a monthly average inspection amount of 1,425. So although there were a few less in September, the 3 inspectors I have been very busy keeping everything moving. And let's keep going. And then this shows our trend lines with solar. We still get solar permits. They still trend very similarly to the residential building permits. And then we can continue to Payman, who will give us the current planning and advanced planning monthly reports.
Good evening, Commission. So for current planning, there's a little bit of slowdown, but we still have some existing projects that will be coming to you. But in terms of the last couple of months, for District 1, we had 2 new projects, one a custom home in the Cheyenne area and then the City Well. No projects were approved in District 1. District 2, we approved 2 projects, or 1 project for the house plans for Roberts Ranch. District 3, minor fence adjustment, and the Vacaville Islamic Center. None were approved for District 4 Sapphire Luxury Apartments. That's been submitted for Peabody Road. No approved projects. District 5, we received some new applications. I'm sorry, I don't know why. A small when I said a quick sip drive-through for just down the street from us on Merchant, a food truck, and the Lower Luke Valley Policy Plan Amendment to remove a parcel from the policy plan that was part of an amendment to an agreement from the Greenbelt Alliance. In terms of District 6, we, as the director mentioned, Alamo Creek Subdivision GPA initiation went to council and was approved, so that application should be coming to us shortly. So we have a lot more activity for advanced planning, some of the larger projects that the city's undertaken. Peabody House, the specific plan, which you received an update on back in July. That's still going forward. Markham Callan neighborhood, which you heard tonight. Pro housing designation, which you got an update on. We're moving forward with that and submitting our application to HCD. We're going to have a code update coming up next month. That's our annual update. It's coming in a little bit later than it normally does, which is probably during the summertime. CFD and fiscal impact analysis policy update. Community outreach that was done in September, and that's going to the next city council as a study session. The larger projects with East of Leisure-Town, that's still ongoing. Just a lot of work that we're still waiting on and going with the draft land use plans. Northeast growth area also, that's the planning study. Things are moving forward with that in terms of existing conditions report and review of land use alternatives. BESS is going to be the popular one tomorrow night. There's a community meeting at Ulatis. Then we're hoping to bring something to you in November and then on to City Council in December. And then our MSR review, that's, again, still a lot of work that's ongoing. So those are the items for advanced planning.
I don't have any other topics. Staffing updates, we are down 2 full-time planners right now, and we have an active recruitment to replenish our forces. We're getting ready to bring on some new folks, and our building division remains fully staffed, thankfully, knock on wood. And that's all I have this month. Thank you all.
Thank you, Director Morris. Excuse me. So now we'll move on to commissioner comments. Does anybody have any closing comments for this evening? We'll start with Commissioner Hampton.
Just want to say thank you for being part of the team, and I'm looking forward to the things that we'll do in the future. So appreciate staff and a great job that they do, and looking forward to working with you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Vice Chair Wilkerson.
I would like to welcome Commissioner Hampton to the Planning Commission. I have known Bob for over 20 years, I believe. He's a good man, and I believe he's going to do a great job and represent the city of Vacaville. So I'm excited that you're here, and I appreciate it. I want to thank Council Members Stockton, Council Member Silva, Council Member Chapman, Council Member Freeman, Council Member Wiley, and Mayor Carley for attending the Northern Solano County's Association of Realtors Salute to Local Government yesterday. Very good job of Vacaville representing and being a part of the presence. I appreciate it, along with the city manager. So shout out to you guys. I greatly appreciate it. And a special shout out to Director Morris, who came this morning at 9 a.m. and gave a presentation on all things community development to the association as well. So thank you so much for the presentation. I greatly appreciate it. That's all I got.
Thank you, Vice Chair Wilkerson. Commissioner Vargas, you have anything?
Welcome, Commissioner Hampton. Welcome to the team. Glad we have a full commissioner board, and thank you to the staff for the presentation today.
Thank you, Commissioner Vargas. Commissioner Dingman.
Yeah, just welcome to Commissioner Hampton. Bob, it's great to see you and have you on the team. And I really want to thank staff and Director Morris for all the work. And this was, I think, a very productive session tonight. Thanks for all the work you guys did. Appreciate it.
Yeah, agreed. Thank you, Commissioner Dingman. You good? Commissioner Banta.
Yeah, I just wanted to welcome Commissioner Hampton. Welcome to the team, and I look forward to getting to know you over the next few years. Thank you to staff for the presentations today. It's really nice to see housing development projects that feed multiple different parts of the general plan and various types of housing
for our families that can move in and also enjoy that beautiful park that we have. And so it's really exciting that 18 more families will get to enjoy that beautiful park. So thank you.
Commissioner Beaumont.
Yeah, I'd also like to echo welcome to Commissioner Hampton. I'm glad it only took 5 months to get you here. I'm glad you're here.
Thank you, Commissioner Beaumont. Yeah, welcome, Commissioner Hampton. We're very excited to have a full 7 seats. We did avoid some landmines. I know that with 6 seats, it could get hairy, but luckily we didn't come to that. So I appreciate everybody's input tonight. Thank you for all of the public comments received and enthusiasm from the city this evening. And with that, I'll adjourn this meeting. Excuse me. Good night.